Hello, my name is Skeletor, and welcome to my live show where I take calls and help people. I know, I'm evil, but I use my experience as a villain and my dedication to never give up to give out advice to those in need. I know, I'm not nice, and I don't normally do these kind of things, but this pays pretty good, actually. So, we have our first caller, Cindy. Cindy, you're on with Skeletor. How can I help you?
Hey, well, I'm a phone actress.
Uh-huh.
My problem is my callers are coming way too fast. And in order for me to make any kind of dough, I need to keep a 7-minute minimum with each caller.
Um, okay. Well, I take it you want to keep these guys on the phone longer. Well, when He-Man and I would battle and duke it out, if I didn't want the fight to end too soon, I would come up with an elaborate plan that would take a long time to take effect. Maybe you should use this tactic in your phone sex play thing? Did Evil Lynn set this up?
Hello, everybody. How you doing out there? It's me time. I'm going to take these off since I really don't have to hear anything. Yeah, how we doing tonight? Welcome. Let's get the chat up on the screen. This is just me and you guys right now. So, ooh, that's okay. Yeah. Well, how's everybody doing out there tonight? Monkey Zor, Max Mercer, Time and Flip, Alpha J 3.0, Rosetta's in the chat. Max Mercer, I think I said you already. Anyway, how's everybody doing? Yeah, I'm all by my lonesome. I don't have anybody with me. Thought I'd try this out, see how it went. Talked to you guys a little bit. Showed you one of my little cartoons there. I don't know if you enjoyed it much. Maybe I'll have another one later if you want. I don't know. What do y'all think of the Skeletor? Got Thomas Potts. I should prank call Annie Trekker. I don't have his phone number, or I would. No Rob? No, not yet. You haven't heard from him yet today, so we'll see how that goes. Welcome, clone Captain Blasto. How's things going? I'm doing the best I can. Well, let's just say this whole gender flip thing has been taken to a whole new dimension. You could say crazy enough. We got Zorro now that's going to be gender flopped. We've got gender flopped Kung Fu coming, gender flopped Rocketeer. I mean, did they not learn anything from Ghostbusters 2016? I just don't get it. I really don't. It's kind of weird not doing this with any headphones on, but I figured why have the headphones on for now? I'm not talking to anybody else but you guys in the chat, so I don't need them. But yeah, let everybody kind of file in here a little bit. Any news on new movies? Well, there's a new Scooby-Doo movie called Scoob we're getting a trailer for on Monday. Other than that, I'm not sure. We're just going to talk. I'm going to talk to you guys out there in the chat. Hello from Sweden, says Holson85. Well, hello. All right. Funny, but kind of came out of nowhere. All right. Yeah, Zorro. Let me break this fucking thing out. There goes the monetization right away. So yeah, if you guys want to throw me some super chats, that'll help. I'm sure we'll get demonetized fairly quickly. Let me pull up this whole Zorro business here. I know I should have been more ready than this, but I wasn't sure what we were going to talk about right away. But you guys seem to want to get into that. Let's get right into that. Why not? I'll just look it up. Oh, yeah. So hopefully everybody's having a great Thursday. Oh, balls. Here we go. Let me see if I can bring this up here. Shut that off because I don't need that crap. All right. Let me see what you guys are talking about real quick. Lady Zorro, smash the patriarchy. Greetings, says Tommy. Hello. Hello, Sister Harrow. How are you doing? I want to check out Servant movie on Apple Plus. I haven't really heard that much about that yet. Oh, we got a Sister Harrow sent us an Australian $3 super chat. That, of course, just so you guys know, the stickers do not show up in StreamYards. They have fixed the StreamYards deal to where you can see what our super chats better, but they have not yet fixed that. But at least it's on the screen there so you guys can see it. I don't even know what you guys wrote there. I'll see there. I really don't care as long as it ain't politically driven or calling somebody the N-word or something. I don't know. But anyway, let's get this show rolling because we're fucking 10 minutes overdue here. And I'm going to take that off just for a moment so I can bring up this monstrosity. Zorro. Female-fronted Zorro show in development for NBC. A female-fronted live-action Zorro reboot has been in development for NBC. It was first reported by Deadline. Why don't we just go to the fucking Deadline story then? Fuck it. Let's see. Well, this was CBS Television Studios has signed a first-look deal with Propagate, the company led by Ben Silverman and Howard Owens. The agreement covers scripted projects from Propagate as well as subsidiaries Electus and Big Breakfast across all platforms. Under the pact, Propagate already is developing several new shows, including a reimagining of Zorro with a female protagonist from Alfredo Barrios Jr., Magnum PI, and drama Home from writer Jorge Reyes, Queen of the South, both at NBC, as well as an untitled project from writer Melissa Scriver Love, Fear the Walking Dead, at CBS. Goes on a little bit more about Zorro here. Written and executive produced by Barrios Jr., it is a modern-day retelling of the Zorro mythology that follows Z, a female descendant of the warrior bloodline, who will go to great lengths to protect the defenseless in her community. Written and executive produced by Reyes, who hails from Buffalo. Home follows. That's about that. Okay, let's go back to the Zorro thing. Let's bring that back up here. That's a better picture, so we'll leave that. Let me see what you guys are talking about in the chat, because I had to zoom away there for a second. That's what sucks about being on my own. All right, let's see. With all the gender swap crap in Hollywood, is going broke less than 2 years. Yeah. Zorro was supposed to be in modern LA. Okay, so yeah, welcome Trey Chester. Obviously, this is supposed to be a descendant of Zorro, so I don't know. I mean, Andre's a bigger Zorro fan than I am on this. So yeah, wait till Disney already kind of made Zorro called Mulan. Yeah, a little bit Zorro. How can you modern day Zorro? Well, I can tell you how you can probably modern day Zorro. I don't want to get too in depth into the political side of things, but just look at what's going on in our border right now, and considering Zorro is a Hispanic superhero of sorts, I'm sure you can draw some comparisons or parallels there. So it's Winona Earp. It'll be Zorro like they did with Thor. Well, we'll have to see. I was just checking Terminator's box office. Now you tell me there's a Zorro movie. Yeah. Actually, it's going to be a TV show, Ryan. So we'll have to see. How will Lady Zorro beat bad guys with guns and swords? It's a good question. Zorro is just a title, they'll say. Pretty much. It's just like a lot of this other crap anymore. So not only are we getting the Zorro thing, I should have brought this up too, but Kung Fu is actually getting a female reboot as well for CW. Let me bring this crap up here. Oh, my Lord. Oh, this is just amazingly bad. How do we get to this point? I don't know. Oh, Hugh Jackman is considering returning as Wolverine in the MCU as Disney Marvel backs a $1 billion multi-film contract, and I don't see that happening, but if it does, you never know. It's not outside of the realm of possibility, considering they brought back Joe Jonah Jameson, Spider-Man, so we'll see. Well, let's bring up this next article. Female-led Kung Fu redo eyed at CW. Oh, goody! If you're feeling Kung Fu redo deja vu, it's good for a good reason. A female-led reboot of the 1970s series that starred David Carradine is now in development at CW, more than 2 years after a female-led reboot landed a pilot commitment at Fox. So this isn't the first time this has happened, evidently. The original Kung Fu starred Carradine as Kwai Chang Caine, a Shaolin monk who traveled through the American Old West armed. I vaguely remember the show, with his spiritual training and his skills in martial arts as he sought out his half-brother Danny. See, now I remember The Next Generation more than I remember the original. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but okay, the version developed for Fox, written by Arrow vet Wendy Miracle, and also EP'd by Berlanti, followed Lucy Chang, a Buddhist monk and Kung Fu master who travels through 1950s America searching for the man who stole their child years earlier. Okay, so that doesn't say they're necessarily going to go with that plot, but considering it's still going to be at CW and the connections of Berlanti, and why? They didn't evidently learn their lessons from Batgirl, that's for sure. And I don't know. This is just, what the fuck? What happened? I mean, there are strong female characters out there. There are strong stories that you could be using. I don't want to do this, but I gotta smoke a cigarette. I fucking can't. Fuck this. I'm so tired of this crap. You know, this whole thing started with fucking Ghostbusters, right? And even then, it wasn't even so much about them having women be Ghostbusters. It was the fact that you had to have all four of them and you had to shove it in everybody's face and virtue signal, off the roof that we're putting women in a guy's role. Now, I have no problem with any females in movies, and I don't know why this keeps going around that Midnight's Edge is against women in any roles. We have no problems with women in roles. What we want is good characters, good movies, good stories. You know? I don't fucking get this shit. Why is this so difficult to understand? How did Wonder Woman not teach Hollywood anything? I mean, seriously. I mean, my glasses are glaring. I'm going to take them off for a minute, guys. But how did Hollywood not learn a goddamn thing from Wonder Woman? This was... A year ago, wasn't it that Halloween came out? Laurie Strode, a very strong female character-led film, was huge at the box office. Why can't we just get those characters back? I don't get it. Oh, I love women, Hammer. Don't. Sometimes several at the same time. But no, this is just getting ridiculous. go back and see what you guys are talking about, because oh, thank you for smoking. Well, I'm trying to actually quit. I shouldn't be doing this, actually, but I'm aggravated. Amy Pascal, yeah, Ghostbusters and name. And here's the thing, right? I'm gonna go off this monkey sword because this is true. The thing is with Paul Feig, I didn't have a problem. I didn't have a problem at all with a lot of his other movies until Ghostbusters. It was this, if he would have made a movie that was Ghostbusters like in his vein of making movies, I wouldn't have had a problem at all. I wouldn't have had any problem whatsoever. It's just this nonsense I don't get. Anyway, I don't want to go off on a tangent there. Kill Bill was right. Yeah, I love Kill Bill. I love those movies. That's what I don't understand. I mean, and frankly, I mean, it was the whole thing with the Terminator movies. I don't understand how they're not seeing how they're making Sarah Connor a complete failure just to hoist up this other lady, which you could have just had it been John's daughter. Or you didn't have to kill John. It was just so tasteless. It was very tasteless. Anyway, let me see what you guys are talking about here. Because Wonder Woman didn't used to be Wonder Man. That's the thing. That's the thing. I get that, Robert, but they should have learned that there are strong characters out there. They don't need Joker is counter culture. Yeah, in a way. Greetings, Sci-Fi Nation. How you doing? Broadcast TV. Well, we're getting to that point with the streaming services. So, yeah, the controller for me. Looks like I picked the wrong week to stop smoking. That's about right. Looks like I picked the wrong day to start smoking. Oh, Lord. Oh, geez. Okay. Finally get a question here. So how the new rules affect y'all, the preference score and the thing with the FCC will have roll. I don't know yet. I have no idea. I'm hoping they won't affect us as much as some people think they will. I hope that they're not going to be as big of a deal, but you never know. I've heard some other things, though, that they might be implementing to combat some issues. So we'll have to wait and see how that works out. But yeah, so Charlie's Angels will fill. Well, what's sad is I don't even have that much of a problem with Charlie's Angels. It had strong women. That's the whole point of Charlie's Angels. But we just had a reboot not even, 10 years ago. But whatever. It's a new thing to reboot everything every 5 years. So as long as you don't eat the fish. All right. So how's everybody doing out there? Anybody got some questions for me other than that? I mean, do we really need a female reboot of everything? Any news about STD? No, none off top of the hand. I've been hearing some rumors that the test screenings of Picard are not going very well, and they might push it more towards original canon timeline, but we'll have to see how that works out. $5 from Chris Persia. Thank you so much. With all these female-led reboots, can we reboot Captain Marvel with a real woman and one that can emote? Well, here's the thing. We haven't heard thing one yet about Captain Marvel, okay? And not only have we not heard thing one yet about Captain Marvel, when we do get a Captain Marvel 2, it's probably going to be set in the modern day, and she's probably not going to be the star. It's probably going to be what's-her-face's daughter. So Brie Larson may get her wish that more women of color should get roles. Yeah, I hate putting it like that, but that's true. All right. Let's see here. Copa sounds like creators' content a lot of years. Other would be effective thoughts. I'm not too familiar with it all yet. I feel like some of the stuff is possibly a bit hyperbolic. It always seems to be that way when it comes to these sorts of things on YouTube. But I have to learn more about it yet. And I know a few things that may be getting implemented that may combat some of these things. And I know how everybody came together on the whole checkmark thing. So, I mean, with the checkmark thing and how fast that came together, I'm not too worried. But we'll see. You know, I mean, I don't want to be too optimistic at the same time. Charlie's Angels being marketed with commercials that play the song "Don't Call Me Angel," but that's the play. I believe in most cases that's called irony. I mean, I don't know. But anyhow, I digress. Let's get back to the chat. Let me bring the chat back up here so you guys can see it on screen. I wish my glasses weren't so glaring. That wouldn't be a bad thing. $2 from the rookie critic. Hiya, buddy. What the update on Anas? Nothing yet. I know Gary is working on trying to get some money to him. So we'll see how that works out. I recently reached out to him, haven't heard back yet, but of course with the time difference, that's not surprising. Sometimes it takes a day or two for him to get back a hold of me. So, or, you know, me to get back a hold of him. Let me try and catch up with the chat here. How about an all-female reboot of the Cotton Club? I have not heard of that yet. If they have, then that's news to me, unless you're joking, which don't give them any ideas. Because once you start giving them ideas, they'll fucking do it. You know what I mean? Looks like Robert's going to see Dr. Sleep tonight. I might go see that this weekend. I really don't do a lot of formal reviews anymore. I don't know if you guys have noticed. I've given up on doing a lot of the formal reviews unless there's something special like the Jay and Silent Bob thing. Basically, it's because nobody watches them. And I'm not like begging you guys to watch them or anything. But if you want to hit that like button, that might help the algorithm a little bit right now. There's 100 of you watching. 100 likes would be awesome. But it just doesn't seem like they do that well on views and all that stuff. And I'm sorry if I look like crap, guys. I've been sick all night. That's kind of why I'm doing this, is I haven't had time to really do anything else today, and I felt like I should do something so I don't feel like a loser. But yeah. So yeah, hopefully Dr. Sleep is good. Some of my glasses here. I've been hearing it's like one of the best adaptations of a King novel in a long time. So that's a good thing to hear. I can see we got some rolling in here. Magic Mike. Well, that would be nice. Wasn't that already called Striptease or Showgirls? I don't know. Trek says he'd watch my reviews. Well, thank you, Trek. But that's the thing, is for the time it takes me to put into them, not enough people really watch them. We do the round tables sometimes on the main channel, or I'll talk about a movie after I go see it now, which is kind of like this thing. It's kind of where this kind of started. I'm trying to get my bearings and doing this, you know, without anybody else, relying on anybody else. You know, I mean, of course, I mean, like Entertainment Hacker here and there. Reviews get yeah, I mean, if you want to join me, I mean, I'd love to have somebody to chat with. But you know, yeah, Rookie Critic, same thing. I could probably send you a link too. I'm just watching John Wick tonight. Starts, oh, good for you. It's a good movie. I don't know if I'll be around or not. I think I work tomorrow, but if not, I'll try and hop in. FTC says creators can be fined $4,200 if they put teams geared towards kids, even if it isn't. So I'm going to check the box as of January 2020. Right. Okay. Here's the thing. I know of a and it kind of goes off the demonetization system, and I'm not going to say who told me or anything, but I have a feeling that certain creators, once you get to a threshold, will be able to self-regulate a lot more. So this might be something that'll be curved off a bit ahead of time. But again, this is something I have not really had enough time to look into. I got to watch some of the Quartering's video, but not the whole thing. Stieg! Woo. I should bring Stieg in too. Yeah, you know what? I think I've talked by myself long enough. You guys want to watch a cartoon? You guys want to watch a cartoon while I'll see if I can get some people to come in? What do you think? You want to watch one of my, oh, I got one. Let's see here. Let's see here. Let's try this one, maybe. I think so. Yeah, if you guys want to watch a cartoon that you probably haven't seen, I think I got one here for you. All right. Love cartoons? Yes, go for it. Okay, I got a couple. Hey, how's it going, Script Doctor? Yeah, I'm gonna show you guys a cartoon, and then maybe I'll send a link out and see if I can get some people in here. So let me share that for you, and we will watch a cartoon. Did I share the audio too? I don't think I did. Let's do this again. Chrome. There we go. Get it right. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to let you guys watch the cartoon while I see if I can find. Hello.
Hello.
My name is Dr. Lecter. Not only am I a doctor, but I'm a member. Welcome to Slashers Anonymous.
Hi, my name's Jason.
Hello.
You can call me Jay. I like that. That's cool.
Hi, I'm Chucky.
Hello.
I don't want to be here, but I am. Oh, yeah, and I'm a slasher, I guess.
Hello, I'm Pinhead, as some call me, or your hell priest. And I am a slasher. And why haven't we done this sooner? This is excellent. This is a wonderful idea. I haven't seen so many of you in so long. Oh, my name's Fred.
Hello.
Slasher.
Hello, I'm Dr. Hannibal Lecter. I took over the Norman Bates Institute a few years ago. Our owner, he stops by from time to time, but right now he's on vacation with his mother. You'd be surprised the lack of facilities for slashers out there today. So needless to say, we're the premier institute for serial killer mental health, especially for the unkillable, undead, and metaphysical.
This is my favorite place to be every week because all my friends are here, and that little dog guy who I don't like because he's really creepy and he scares me. I am here because my boss says I get a little too wrapped up in my job. I guess I love my work. I find a lot of pleasure in it. But after I got here, I seen the benefits of Slashers Anonymous, and I'm so glad that I've joined the group. Oh, I guess it's pretty cool to get to hang out with these guys, except for Jason.
Hey,
Fuck
that's not
you.
nice.
Get sick of you every goddamn day.
You mean?
I'm really just here for the free coffee. I just don't know what it is. I'm there, and they're there, and I'm looking at them, and I'm like, just don't run, bitch. Don't run. Don't run. I'm going to chase you. Don't run. So she runs. That drives me insane. It makes me want to kill him.
Okay.
I can't stop. Oh.
That's why you're here. We're here to learn how to control
Yeah.
our urges. Not that I want to shoot that man's face. I cannot right now. I have to wait till later. Sometimes you just have to let things go, Jason.
I can't help it.
Of course, except for half.
Even if it's a naked bitch.
That is your thing. I get it. Embrace it.
I know. I'm a dog, and they are my car.
Well, sometimes you just gotta choke a bitch. I believe that breakthrough will bring us to our group motto. Slashers Anonymous is not here to change.
I'm here to change the better.
And always, quote Mr. Bates,
We all feel a little mad sometimes. Well, there's probably 167 things I'd rather be doing right now, but it's either this or hang out with the kids and wife. I need a fucking hobby. All day do we dembella. Give me the power, I beg of you. Monsieur de Boischaillot, Zacous and Tame Pois de Mort, Andele Pois de Boisse dembella. Stop trying to put your soul into Michael. Why are you gonna ruin the fun? He's got no personality. It's like a potty trick. I don't care. I told you not to do that. It's rude. Well, Michael, were you wanting to share anything with the group today? Perhaps? No?
He says, no, I'm good. How the fuck do you know what he's saying? I guess I speak his language. Honestly, I really don't have a lot to really complain about or anything like that. It's pretty cool being me. Well, except for kids nowadays, they fucking suck. They got this thing called a safe space. You guys know what I'm talking about? I know. Fucking stupid, right? So, like, I'm getting into their dreams and then go and hide in this safe space and I can't fucking get to them. Drives me insane. If I had hair, I'd pull it out. Ugh. So, anyway, other than that, it's just putting up with Jason, who just happens to be my fucking roommate, who I'm sure you've heard me complain about 60 fucking times.
Yes, I have to admit we have a very eclectic group, but I have to admit they've made me a much better doctor than I have them patients.
That's because you suck, Doc.
Oh, shut up, Charles. Do shut up. Little scallion.
Who made the lemon squares?
Me?
I have not known such pleasures. Thank you.
Next week, I'm bringing brownies.
All right. Anyway. How's everybody doing? How you doing, Stig?
Doing quite well, making lasagna in the microwave.
Awesome.
I'm feeling fantastic.
Awesome. How you doing, Rookster? You know, you said you ain't got long, but I'm not gonna probably be that much longer anyway. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
I got the grocery shopping with you.
I did that a few years ago.
Oh, I like that.
It's probably one of my better things, maybe.
Yeah, but still, it had entertaining appeal. So
Yeah,
it's all good.
making noise. There we go. All right. So how's everybody doing tonight, other than lasagna and probably getting ready for work, I assume?
I just got off my math exam. I don't know how well I did, and I got a grocery shop in a few. So yeah, but other than that, I'm going fantastic. Going great. Gonna watch John Wick
Ooh, good
for the
movie.
first time.
Yeah, I love the first one. Second one and third one are good. I'm not as big a fan, but like the thing I have with the second and third one is it felt like it stopped feeling like it was the real world and it started feeling more and more like it was its own video game kind of world. Ooh, there you go. That's a good one.
I was about to say I got my first package sent to me by a patron. So King Kong Escapes. When I opened it, I thought it said King Kong Escapes the Dong. But that sounds like more like what my audience might send. But
That would
Big-
be one of the Tahoe or
big-
Toho or whatever. Yeah, ones. Yeah.
Big spoiler in the title, though.
yeah, but I don't know what happens. He escapes, but then what? I mean, that's you never know. So I'll have the fun of watching that. I'm gonna probably do a review of it since he sent it as well. So we're doing that soon.
Hmm.
Anyway,
Looks
so how
awesome.
is this a new thing you're doing, Tom, with the Tom chats?
I've done a few like after reviews, like after I've seen a movie, instead of just doing a straight review where I've just come and talked about it, and that kind of started. And I've always wanted to do like, something during the day, but like Rob's always busy and Mecca, of course, has her own channel. So I can't expect her to constantly,
Of course.
be open for my schedule. And then my job situation, I think, is going to be changing in the next month or two after the beginning of the year. So I don't know. I might do like some semi-daily show or every day of the week kind of show. Maybe I don't know. Depends on if I can talk to people long enough. That's
I know
my
what you mean on that. I was trying to start a stream this morning. I was going to do like a tales from a Subway artist or from a sandwich artist, and then I was like, it was like I set it for 8:45 in the morning, and I got up at 8:30, and I'm like, I'm not going to stream right now. I was like, no, not going to happen. So I feel it all. It's all figuring out the routine, figuring out the schedule, figuring out what to talk about.
Right, and we never did finish our Rambo discussion. So what did you think of Rambo 2 and 3?
All right, yeah, we never did get to do those. Yeah, I think I'm getting pushed back, but I can do those right here real quick, kind of. So I thought Rambo 2 was okay. I thought it was all right, but it was kind of unnecessary. I thought any of them after 1 just didn't kind of need to happen based on what happened in those stories. But I like the feel of 2. It kind of reminisced with number 1 a little bit. But I kind of laughed when, spoilers, when the love interest gets killed. I was like, they're like, oh, they're in love all of a sudden, and then oh, she gets killed. I was like, oh, yes. That was kind of funny.
Mark Tronster says a female reboot of Rambo, only she's topless.
Yeah. And it's Queen Latifah.
There's some reboots that are hard to argue if that's the case.
Right.
But I guess it depends who's topless, though.
This is very true. Hey, yo, I did them topless.
I do a topless film too, they're saying, my friend. That one more Indian.
Why did Stallone turn into
Habib? I don't know.
I have no idea there.
But
so yeah, how's did you like the 4th one at all, or
the 4th one? I think I saw the 4th one a long time ago, or whenever that came out, at my friend's house, and I mean I saw it again, and it's just like it's fine, but that's again just so not really needed, and I feel like they could have done something else with the story. I mean, I kind of liked how he's just kind of given up trying to interfere with any problems. Like he's really not trying to get involved at all. And so he's like really trying to advise the people, hey, you don't want to go over there. You're going to get killed probably. And then, they get in those situations. And I kind of liked it, but it just didn't, I don't know. I don't really understand the point of Rambo after the first one. The first one was a series of accidents kind of. And then after that, it's usually people recruiting him to do stuff. And then he's just doing stuff.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Well, that's all you need. Rambo killing a country.
But I mean, it's more like, so he was doing things, and then one thing led to the next, as to where in the following ones he's doing something, and then somebody pulls him into something, and so he's like forced to be in something rather than anything else causing it. It's just, other people end up pretty much pointing him in the direction they want him to go, which I feel like is kind of stupid. That's my opinion. And I have not seen the Rambo 5 yet, but I figure that since it got out of theaters, lickety split over here, it's probably going to be on, available on DVD in like a week.
It might, not a week, but they might push it out by the end of the year.
Soon. You know what I mean?
Some bastard in the chat called me a Swede.
Nah.
Not okay. I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you, your dog, and your car. I'm bringing a hammer.
Did Mary show you the T-shirt, Stig?
Yeah.
Okay, I figured she did.
There's 2 of them.
Is there?
Yeah, one that says.
I'll bring up one here. I don't think she'll care.
Oh, you got a new T-shirt?
Yeah, Mary is doing merchandise, and the
wind
wind
I heard about that.
Is a shirt.
You're the wind beneath my wings. You know that, right, Stig?
Well, that's nice of you to say.
She must have sent it to me on my phone. God damn it.
Tom, you might enjoy this little spoiler thing, but next Friday, Mara is going to be back on Shenanigans, and there might be a sequel.
Sweet.
Oh, really?
Mara's awesome.
I did see the thing. I get to be bad.
Yeah. Yeah, that was I think it's going to be a lot of fun tomorrow.
Sweet. Sounds fantastic.
Everybody's not sure where you're from, Stig. This guy thought you're from Ronan Blade. Thought you're from Scotland. So,
See, I have a theory that Stig is a robot. He's a quip machine.
Yeah, I've had people say I sound like Ewan McGregor and Morgan Freeman. It's weird.
at the
People
same
are weird. Yeah, in the same chat.
No, I think
That's funny.
Yeah, I've been accused of being American as well. And
No.
Austrian and Australian, English, Scottish.
I don't know about Australian. I don't know
Me
where-
neither.
I don't know. I guess I've never been, mistaken for another accent or anything. Not yet. Not yet, Governor. I could try. Throw my weight around a little bit. A little different.
Hammer wants us to ask you about the EU, Stig.
Could you be more specific?
That would help, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, I'm currently reading the old Thrawn trilogy, which is awesome. It feels like an old George Lucas story from cover to cover. The author did everything right. And it's the sequel trilogy we should have had.
There you go.
All right. Yeah, I don't know too much about the entire EU, but I have recently started to look up some fan films and like Star Wars fan films or the Rings fan films. There's actually a large number of like awesome looking films that people have made and put together. So I'm trying to find some good ones to watch and do like mini reviews kind of on my channel to see if other people want to give them a look and talk about them, because there's some that are like, holy crap, damn good. Maybe not on the budget scale of like the Vader fan film, but still.
I like the Kenobi and Vader extended fight fan film.
Well, hello, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. How are you doing?
Hello, a link just appeared, and so should I then.
I figured I handed out. I was doing my own thing, kind of a test run, and these other guys showed up. These I don't know what you call them.
Well, I don't mean to interrupt.
No. You're actually more than welcome.
So good. I'm actually about to head out because I got to go grocery shop.
Rookie's got to go anyway. But Rookie Critic, this is Robert Meyer Burnett.
Hello, Rookie Critic.
How's it going?
Way out the door, actually. And then we got Stig Kenobi, who's a good friend of Mary Mayhem. I don't know if you're aware of her at all, but
hello there.
Hello. I was thinking Mother Mayhem from Brother Blood.
Pretty much
from the Teen Titans.
That's how you
Mary,
can think of her. She's not that different.
Yeah, Mary recently just joined Geeks and Gamers, so she's kind of an up and comer.
Yeah,
we're glad to have you here. We're just talking whatever the chat talks about, kind of like what you do on your show, I guess you could say.
I quite enjoyed my talk with Jeremy.
Did you? Yeah,
I did.
What was that?
I thought we had a good chat.
Outside of what we saw, I mean,
I enjoyed it. It's funny. Of all the things that I've done on YouTube of late, the thing that I received the most positive feedback from was my chat with Jeremy.
Wow.
Which I thought was pretty cool. To me, it was like, you have a different point of view from the Fandom Menace or Geeks and Gamers. And I'm like, yeah, but like I said, we're all fans. Like, we all love Star Wars. We all love Star Trek. So why couldn't we? I was curious. I'm like I said, when Jeremy had reached out and because I had mentioned it on the show, and Jeremy reached out and said, yeah, man, we should let's do a show. And I went on his show, and I thought we had a great conversation. About all the stuff that we loved and video games, and I think what is lost, especially now. I got to tell. I was even saying today, my YouTube feed is choked all of a sudden with everybody bitching about everything.
Oh, that's literally the YouTube right now.
It is, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, God. First of all, there's a company in England called 1612 that's making die-cast Eagle transporters from Space 1999. Also in the UK, Big Chief Studios has just put on pre-order their John Koenig figure, their 6-scale figure from Space 1999. There's more movies and things coming out on Blu-ray and 4K that I love. I've got books that I want to read coming out my ears. There's graphic novels that are being published that are awesome. This Prince memoir came out. There's I mean, we got Dr. Sleep is in the theaters. There's so much awesome stuff, and everybody's mad. I'm just like, wait a minute. There's so much stuff that is glorious coming out all over the place. I don't know if you picked up Arrow's new box set of An American Werewolf in London on Blu-ray. That just came out. A British company released David Cronenberg's Rabid on a special edition box set. There's a 3-disc set of the original Rollerball coming out. I mean, for me, I look everywhere in the geek space, and there is so much cool stuff coming. And I'm like, why is everybody mad? It's just so weird.
I think it's partially just YouTube and like YouTube in general. I mean, a lot of people could feel the same way, but as far as putting out a video, they want to put out one that'll get more clicks, kind of. But I feel like you're on the right point here. There's been so much anger, I guess, for a while that people might want to look towards something more positive. So putting out some stuff like what you're talking about will probably be what people go to next, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think to myself, like, look, whether you his Dark Materials, I love that series of books. We got the Golden Compass. I thought it let the source material down. The fact that HBO and BBC have made Philip Pullman's, they're going to do the whole trilogy as a TV series, is awesome. We just got another season of Jack Ryan. The Boys season 2 just wrapped filming. I mean, there's so much stuff out there that's coming down the pike to be excited about. Somebody just now, before I jumped on your thing, there was a guy on YouTube telling me that most millennials in his generation feel like they just want to die and kill themselves. And I'm like, what? What are you saying? I'm like, we live in the most prosperous time in all of human history. Now, does that mean it's a perfect time? Certainly not. Now, whatever you feel about Star Wars, we're getting 7 weeks in a row of brand new live action Star Wars material. Now, whether Rise of Skywalker is great, we're still going to get 8 hours of The Mandalorian. How cool is that? It looks awesome.
That's 8 hours. That won't make sense.
Hopefully.
Rookie Critic had to take off, so do check out his channel. But yeah, the one thing, like the problem with it though, Rob, is I always want to do reviews, and I just brought this up earlier, but 9 times out of 10 reviews don't get views, especially if there's something I'm giving a positive review to, unfortunately.
Right.
And I just had recently, like, I couldn't get the American Werewolf in London Blu-ray yet. I knew that was going to be available a little bit longer probably than the Godzilla one, so I had to go with the Godzilla box.
Oh yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, that was half price on the Barnes and Noble sale. Yeah.
And luckily Amazon matched the price, and they had a deal now where I guess they took it down to $48 where they wouldn't match the price, but I contacted customer service and they didn't give me any crap. So yeah, they just matched the price. It's like, all right, cool.
But how about the fact that even exists?
Right. Well, yeah, that's just it.
The Criterion put out the whole show line of Godzilla films on these beautiful remastered Blu-rays. I mean, I think to myself, I'm like, I know it's not really exciting for a lot of people if you didn't grow up with those Godzilla films, and people are like, who cares? But if you did, it's that Criterion put out that box. It's really amazing.
Rob's in the chat. You started without me? No, I just started a show. So come on in, Rob. I sent you. Oh, I'm just doing it by myself. I didn't know what you guys were up to, so I started by myself, and then other people showed up. So come on in, guys. I sent you guys the link. I sent Rob the link anyway. So yeah, no, I love it so far. I know some of the prints, unfortunately, the scans or whatever they're telescenes. They're not actual scans. So
you mean from the negative?
Yeah, so they're not the best quality, but that's what Toho gave them.
Right.
Criterion did the best they could. There's only like 5 of the movies I think that have the American dubs. And of course, if Criterion had their druthers, I'm sure they would have put not only the Japanese version, but the American versions on as well. because you have the situation where I'm assuming because of the deal with either with Universal or another reason they may have done this, but they have King Kong versus Godzilla. The Japanese version's on the bonus disc, and the Universal American cut is on the actual disc. So I think the reason for that is either the deal with Universal and the American distribution side of it, or because the version that is on the other disc is not remastered. It's actually got a lot of scenes from a laser disc from the 90s because they couldn't. But they just recently did a remaster of it, I guess, this last year or two. But for some reason, Criterion couldn't get that version. So I'm like, well, maybe that's why they put it as a bonus as opposed to it, because maybe Toho has a deal with somebody else to release it at some point here in the future in a fully remastered version. But oh yeah, considering these are the best versions of all these movies we are ever going to get, probably it is a wonderful set for the price.
Right.
I mean, for 15 movies for around $110, depending, like right now, if you go get it from Amazon or Barnes and Noble, that's a hell of a deal.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, one of the things, if you're a movie fan, all of the boutique labels, whether it's Shout and Scream Factory, whether it's Arrow, whether it's Indicator, whether it's Second Sight, there's so many boutique labels doing some really great work in film preservation and putting out editions of movies that have all of these special features, and it's really great. And we live in this time where if you're a fan of this stuff, as I grew up, you know, I've been buying physical media for 39 years, and there's never been a better time to be a physical media fan, especially with even 4K. These 4K remasters, when they actually go back to the original elements. I mean, Die Hard is a movie that always looked terrible on home video because it was really difficult to duplicate Jan de Bont's cinematography, especially on home video with the filtering, the heavy filtering he used, and the way he shot things. And when you see Die Hard in 4K, it was the first time ever. And I bought the first Laserdisc release back in '88. It's the first time it ever looked great on home video. And then seeing things like Coppola's The Final Cut, and it's got the theatrical version of Apocalypse Now remastered in 4K. The Shining that just came out in 4K on the heels of 2001. I mean, even the Matrix trilogy looks infinitely better in 4K than it did on the previous Blu-ray releases. And this new Wizard of Oz that's coming out in 4K. I mean, all of this stuff is just, I never thought I'd live to see the day when I could bring this kind of quality home to enjoy at my house. It's amazing. And yet everyone's mad.
Why is everyone mad?
Well, you know, like you pointed out, getting on YouTube, the clicks and the things and look.
Well, yeah, you missed part of the conversation, Rob.
Usually when everybody's mad, it's something I did. So that's
you did.
And also, I mean, look, do I hate Star Trek Discovery with the passion of a burning of 100 million burning supernovas? Yes, I do, and it is deserving of my hatred. However, I've got Blu-rays of the original series and of the Next Generation. I don't have Deep Space Nine though. Why don't I have Deep Space Nine?
Do you know? I don't know if I ever asked you. Do you prefer the special edition original series Star Trek or the original with the original effects? Because to me the original effects, it's great. I love seeing them. But they really outdid themselves with the special editions of the original series. And it's the first time I've ever seen special edition effects like that have actually complemented the source material.
I think that started with the motion picture, because didn't they do those all around the same time, Robert? The one was after, but
no, motion picture was first, and then they did about 8 years later they did the original series.
Oh, it was that long after? Wow.
I have to say, it's very hit and miss. The original Star Trek episodes are very hit and miss for me with the remastered special effects. I think they did some of the things, my favorite things that they did was when they enhanced the storytelling. Like there's an episode from the first season called Court Martial.
Yes.
And you get to see where the ion damage was on the Enterprise. You get to see more stuff going on the Starbase when they get to the Starbase. So they're actually adding to the Star Trek universe, and they did so because the Akutas were intimately involved. I thought they did a really good job of enhancing your understanding of the material. That's when I loved it the most. But then there are some episodes like Balance of Terror where I prefer the original effects because there was something about the optically generated Romulan plasma weapon that just worked. And to see it, they tried to recreate it, but it doesn't. There's something that's just not quite as effective. And sometimes the movement of starships. I mean, anytime you see a ship moving through space, it's all bullshit anyway, because no one would actually. You could never have snub fighters chasing each other in a zero gravity environment. And Babylon 5 kind of got it right, and Battlestar Galactica with the way the ships tumbled, the Star Furies tumbled, and Vipers tumbled. But one of the things about Star Trek is that I love the illusion that is created of these giant capital ships pounding on each other. Like warships, like World War II. And sometimes the movement of the Enterprise in the remastered versions betrays that. The ship seems a lot smaller. It moves too fast. But that's just a function of CG. I mean, nowadays, it's really hard to recreate that feeling. And it's hard. You have to pick. Like, I thought Battlestar Galactica, because they use a lot of those snap zooms and they shot it like it was combat photography. The special effects in Galactica, especially when the Galactica would go up against a base star in the new Galactica, they did such a good job of conveying size and weight, and there was no sound in space, and how it was really well done. So it's sort of hit and miss. And I think the problem with the Star Trek remasters, and a lot of them, like I said, are really, really good. But for every time they did something I really liked, then they would do something like in the Corbomite maneuver, they'd redesign the Fesarius, the giant ping pong ball sphere that shows up with Baylock in it, and they would over design it. There was something, and then I'm like, I think there's too much there, and they needed. It was like too many cooks were offering their opinions, and I think but a lot of it, like you said, is really good. A lot of it's really good, and I love it, and I love the fact that they gave us both. You can toggle between the two if you want.
One of my I like also is Operation Annihilate, which is which is you get to see the seeding orbit of the satellites.
Yep.
And I
love that. That was awesome.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot of nice flourishes. One thing about Balance of Terror, Vincent McKevity, the director. One of the things that I just noticed it recently is that he never has anybody in. He very well not ever, but he always seems to put two people in the frame at all times, except for a few shots. One of Spock when they zoom in when they first show the Romulans what they look like, because nobody has seen the Romulans
and he raises his brow.
Yeah, I mean, so that way you have I don't want to say you have Kirk and you have just sort of the authority and the authority figure and the subordinate together in the shot at all times. To show you the dynamic between the two. I thought that was just noticing that now. I'm like, you know what? That's actually really a really good technique right there. That's something more people should pick up on. And use. Yeah, it's actually, like I said, that's a lot of people point to that one. One of the shots though, I wish they'd left alone was from Where No Man Has Gone Before. You get that really nice shot of the Enterprise bow.
Right. Yeah.
When it's that they recycled from the cage, actually. And it just seemed like that was just, it gave you a sense of scale.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. That the Enterprise it's even though it's this large ship, it's trapped in this huge energy field. I kind of wish they'd left that alone. To me, that's one of the things like, I like the other one better. So,
well, oops, go ahead, Rob.
Oh, I was just going to say what's really interesting is, and you can see this if you look at the Blu-ray versions of the original series, they felt that they had to do that because when they started the restoration of the original series or redoing the effects, when they started transferring over the negatives, the original live action footage looked spotless and immaculate. But the original effects footage that was obviously optically printed with many different layers was hopelessly dirty, and the image wasn't nearly as clear for the way that effects were done during the time. in 66 to 69. So there was no way around it. So they made I thought, an interesting and elegant decision that they were going to redo all of those effects in order to bring them up to the same kind of optical standards that consumers would respect or expect. Because once you're watching great live action, when you cut to really dirty effect shots because of the way they were made, people would have been like, wait a minute, how come the visual effects aren't as good as the live action? And they knew they were going to run into that. So, because people don't know, you buy high definition televisions and you think everything needs to look like a Pixar movie, and that's just not the way it works. And I thought the fact that they not only did the new effects, but that they offered both versions on the disc was an incredible solution, and showed just how great CBS it was. And I had a great experience later when I worked on the Next Generation restoration project, creating all those special features. And I watched them restore those episodes. I mean, it was nothing better than, and there was a team in place that, again, spearheaded by the Okudas, that really knew what they were doing. And that was a joy. I mean, it was a joy to work with people at the studio that were really, not just Mike, but even all the effects people that were recompositing shots, and everybody that was working on Next Generation, man, they were really into it. And it was really fun to be part of that, albeit in some way, a bunch of people that collectively were trying to do the best work they could do and get Next Generation out and restored, because they had to do a lot of, no, it wasn't just the scanning the negative. They had to remix the whole show in 7.1 surround sound, because Next Generation was really only left and right stereo. So it wasn't
not
even
only that, wasn't it? Just it was more of an undertaking than the original show, just because of all the effects and all that kind of stuff, wasn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, for the original Star Trek, when they put the original series on Blu-ray, they have cut negative. So they have cut negative of the whole episodes. And
Right.
so all we have to do is transfer
the yeah.
So, and with Next Generation, because it was all finished on videotape originally, and it was finished on NTSC videotape, they had to go back and get all of the original pieces of negative, find them in boxes, thousands and thousands and thousands of boxes of stored negative, and they had to rebuild. They had to rescan each shot from the original negative. It was a nightmare. And the fact that it took 4 years. It took 4 years to do to put Next Generation in, and it would take 4 years to do Deep Space Nine and 4 years to do Voyager.
No, I think I don't remember if you told this story to us or if this is actually on the Blu-rays, but there was one shot for one episode that just could not be found, and then it was finally found like later on.
Yeah, and they did. It was Sins of the Father. For Sins of the Father. And yeah, and that was the great thing, was they put out a sampler disc. They put out a primer disc to show people. The funny thing about Next Generation is, unless you actually A/B the episodes, they're so different. The HD episodes that are now, they're streaming everywhere, but the difference is well, it's 6 times better, but it's unbelievable to see the difference in resolution, because with Next Generation, you always looked at, it was always gauzy. It was never sharp, and the colors were never correct. It was interesting just seeing people's uniforms, because it's like, oh, this is what Dr. Crusher's uniform. It's not blue. It's more of a green blue. I mean, and you could never tell.
Yeah, I think BBC America is finally airing the restored versions in their regular rotation of Next Generation. So if you haven't picked up the Blu-ray box set of the Next Generation restored versions, you can get a sense of what they look like on BBC
amazing.
America. Yeah, they are. I mean, because I always know
features too.
Well, because I always noticed that, actually. I thought it was just when Marvin K. Rush actually came in that the cinematography changed, but there always looked like, it always looked hazy for some reason. Especially between season 2 and season 3.
Yeah, well, I mean, when Marvin Rush came in on season 3 of the show, one of the joys of working on the project was we couldn't wait to get finished episodes just to see what they look like when Roger and I were doing all the documentaries, and they would send them to us. They would send us the files, so I even saw the uncompressed 60 gigabyte files. And I remember the day that Yesterday's Enterprise came in, I was just I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe the colors, and because season 1 and season 2 do look different from season 3 on. But I mean, episodes like in the 3rd season, the enemy, which is the Romulan episode where Geordi's trapped on a planet with the Romulan. All of the blacks that were ever in Next Generation, the colors. I don't mean black people. I mean the blacks. The blacks were always gauzy and gray. There was never true black. Space was never an inky black. It was a sort of a sludge. And when we first saw these episodes, even space, you realize, man, there's 100,000 more stars in these shots than we've ever seen before. That was all there. It was all shot in the original negative, but because it was posted on videotape, you never saw the full resolution. And so much color and detail was lost. And seeing what they did, it's a revelation, especially if you watch it on like a home theater. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's night and day, definitely, compared to the old ones. But we got a question for you real quick before I got some actually some news from Geeks and Gamers. Hammer wants to know what your thoughts are on 4K UHD real quick, Robert.
Oh, me?
Yes.
I this is the greatest thing ever. I mean 4K UHD. Now there's Dolby Vision. Well, pardon me. There's HDR10, HDR10 Plus, and Dolby Vision. And the thing about 4K HDR, what you really want is a lot of movies are finished at 2K and we're getting upscaled, up-resed versions. And then, which is fine. Sometimes it depends on how well it's done. What you really want is when the studios go back to the original negative elements, like they have with the Matrix trilogy, like they have with 2001, like they did with Apocalypse Now. Studio Canal put out 4 John Carpenter movies in 4K. They put out Escape from New York, They Live, The Fog, and Prince of Darkness. It's just when they go back and go into the original elements and they're able to actually make a true 4K transfer, it's glorious, especially if it's Dolby Vision. And basically the difference between HDR10, 10 Plus, and Dolby Vision is that the metadata that the transfer, like your disc is basically talking to your player and your player's talking to your TV. And so what you're doing is on Dolby Vision, the metadata is constantly changing. So it's constantly updating the Dolby Vision aspects of it. So it's tailoring the colors specifically on a scene by scene basis. HDR10 doesn't do that. HDR10 just sets one look. But Dolby Vision keeps updating it, which is why Dolby Vision is so cool. And if you get those new transfers, man, no, not all of them. Like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, a lot of them are just upscale. And so you don't get the kind of bump you get on a true HDR Dolby Vision or 10 Plus.
Not only that, in some cases with some of the old CGI effects, they're going to look really muddy.
They can.
Updated.
They can, yes, they can, but the upscaling is surprisingly effective. I mean, sometimes it's not. I mean, look, with Disney, I think with their modern movies, and they've been dumping a lot of their catalog titles. When I say dumping, I don't mean that as a bad thing. They're trying to get a last hurrah of physical media buyers before Disney Plus goes online. So they've put out like the Toy Story movies in 4K. The original Lion King came out with the new Lion King, and they've been putting out a lot of things in 4K because once Disney's streaming service comes out, I don't know how long it's going to take, but Disney's streaming service is basically going to kill physical media as far as Disney is concerned.
Well, we were just talking about this last night, how it's basically opening the vault completely, which technically the vault has kind of been opened already with digital downloading. If anybody had the digital versions, they've been available. But, certain movies have still been vaulted as far as physical media until now. This is going to pretty much ostensibly end the vault altogether. Now people are talking about, well, what about Fox movies? They heard about Fox movies being vaulted. As far as I'm under the understanding, isn't this just have to do with certain screenings? Like it's not going to be as easy to get like Die Hard or Rocky Horror Picture Show or something like that out of Fox as it used to be to get a screening for. I don't know if you know anything about this.
Oh yeah. I mean, and also because remember, the reason that Disney bought Fox was basically for their library. And what they're going to do is I don't think they've quite, they have plans, but they have so much work that they have to do on their end to get things ready for their service, whether it's going to wind up on Hulu, whether it's going to wind up on Disney Plus. I mean, Disney Plus, I think, is going to basically be squeaky clean. You know, you're not going to see an R-rated. You're not going to see Alien.
Yeah,
on
they
Disney
pretty much
Plus.
said who's going to have all the
Yeah.
family stuff, and all the family stuff's going to be on Disney Plus.
Yeah, and I think, you know, they're gonna what the one thing that I do like about all of this is they're gonna go back, and Disney is quite good with their transfers. I mean, they have a great department that makes sure you get the best versions of movies, and that's what they want to do with the streaming service, because essentially that's where their entire legacy and library is going to live. You know, no longer do they have to re-release things. It's going to be, and that's another thing. That's what people want to get rid of. The studios, they don't want to manufacture discs now. They don't want to distribute these things and ship them places. And as much as I love physical media, and I have a pretty big collection of discs, not nearly as big as some other people I know, but you know, the movies that I love, especially a lot of the low-budget genre titles, foreign films from all over the world, whether it's Asian cinema or whether it's European cinema or Indian cinema, it's getting these things and having them in my collection. So look, there's so many lower budgeted or older genre films that modern audiences just don't care about. And that's what I want to do is collect, and that's fine. I mean, modern audiences, the world only has about a 20-year pop culture memory anyway, you know, and that's changed. I mean, kids are not going back and I want to watch the Franco-Italian co-production Wild Wild Planet from 1965. I mean, don't get me wrong, you all should watch 1965's Wild Wild Planet. It's only on DVD from Warner Archive, and why haven't they put it on Blu-ray? I don't know, but by God, if you like science fiction movies, just go right now, go to YouTube and look up the trailer for Wild Wild Planet and tell me you don't want to see that goodness.
All right, I'm gonna go. I am gonna go look at that. Actually,
it's one of the goofiest things you'll ever see.
I love Goofy. Goofy is good. Actually, talk about like movies that nobody really cares about. Actually, Tom was gracious enough to send me one of my favorite movies on Blu-ray from one of Robert Zemeckis' first films, I Want to Hold Your Hand.
Oh yeah, it just came out recently.
Yeah, and actually, that's a movie I haven't seen in ages, and it arrived in the mail. I'm like, you know what? This is just as good as I remember it. And it's sad to think that something like that is not going, I don't want to say not going to survive, but it's going to be permanently relegated to the pastiche kind of like obscurity, you know, like
it's going to happen, yeah, unfortunately. Yeah. But you know what? I still have a buttload of CDs, and a bunch of these kids that are buying vinyl now, when they realize that their CDs sound better than their vinyl and their MP3s are going to go back to them, and I'll be laughing. But you know, it's just, the point is, I'm glad to have my physical copy.
Oh yeah,
you can't take that away from me, and that's the one thing that I think is going to be the big thing about the streaming war coming up. It's something we talked about with your good friend Bill Hunt, Robert, in our video about the streaming war, is that you know, how this whole thing is going to come to a head, and you're going to be they're going to be using your favorite IPs to get you in, and they can take these things away at any time they want. Now, it sounds like Disney has said flat out they do not plan on taking anything off. So that's the whole thing, was they're not going to close. The vault is no longer a thing. Everything is always going to be available, they're saying. So now, do you think it's going to open up a lot of the other companies to try and do their best to make everything available?
Yeah, I mean, well, remember when Disney says that, they don't mean Song of the South, and they don't mean an unmolested Dumbo.
and anything that's been edited will be in this edited version. Like Toy Story 2 will not have the Me Too joke in it anymore.
Right.
Yeah, Steve, go ahead and ask a question.
Yeah, if Disney are going to put everything on streaming, right? What will happen to bonus material?
Oh,
that's the big thing, and that's one thing that I know Robert and I are very saddened by, is that, you know, but in the last 20 years it's been dead. And that's one thing you've been fortunate enough overseas, Steve, is they've been really good about giving you. That's why I bought a region-free player, so I could import Blu-rays.
Well, you guys are doing the bonus material like on Midnight's Edge with the documentary.
Yeah, we kind of became bonus material in a way. Yeah,
yeah, that's how I found you guys. I'm like, oh, you guys are doing like documentaries, behind the scenes stuff.
It's not
would
like
be on the DVD.
Well,
we get stuff stuffed with bonus material. I just
Not
thought it
as
was
as much as you guys do over there. No, that's
Oh.
why I import a lot of stuff. Oh yeah.
It'll be the new DLC. Sci-Fi Nation says, yeah, they might charge extra for it. They might be, hey, spend a microtransaction to get the behind the scenes documentary or the
I'm
commentary.
not against that. You know what? I've actually been lobbying for Vudu to start carrying the 3D versions of movies. They quietly started carrying the 3D version of Venom. I had to import that bastard from Japan.
Well,
I mean,
as somebody,
it's like if I'd have known that, I'd have saved myself the $30-40 and just got it on Vudu. But anyway, sorry, go ahead, Robert.
well, I made DVD special features from 1999 to 2014, and I watched the beginnings of the industry, and there was really a whole new thing. There was whole filmmakers that came up and started making documentaries, and it was incredible because the studios were putting a lot of money in there because DVD sales, the DVD was the fastest selling consumer electronics device in history at the time, and people couldn't get enough. And one of the byproducts was so many movies were being transferred, especially like old horror films like Dario Argento's movies and Lucio Fulci's movies. Like finally you're going to get the Beyond it's no longer the American edited version, 7 Doors of Death, and you can put it out. And you started to get all of this great material, and the studios were spending, like if I told you what my budgets were on movies, you'd not believe it for just the special
You told me in
features.
private, and I couldn't believe it either.
It was insane. I mean, we're talking certain movies into the millions of dollars to just make special features. And like, for instance, on Superman Returns, I was in Australia for a year, and my budget covered my team, and I was on set every single day, and we were doing online video blogs, and we were doing I did a 3-hour documentary, and then I came to Australia from New Zealand, where I was on Chronicles of Narnia for 15 months, where we were in New Zealand, and before that I was on Lord of the Rings. And it was an amazing time because you had full access, and filmmakers like Peter Jackson or Bryan Singer, and they would allow camera crews on, and you could document the entire process. And it was amazing. The studios gave you the budget, and then the filmmakers gave you the access, and it was an amazing time to work. And now, of course, it's the second wave is it's fans that are coming to work on these projects. They don't have nearly the budgets, but they have the love of the projects and the love of, like, Daniel Griffiths, this guy who has Ballyhoo Motion Pictures. He did he loves Waterworld. And so he was able to, the Arrow release of Waterworld, he made a feature-length documentary on Waterworld, and he didn't have the kind of access that we used to have, but it was a labor of love, and he made a great documentary. And if you buy that, it's got 3 versions of the movie. That's great.
Yeah, I have that. That's the thing, and it's half your fault I'm here, by the way, Robert. Because a lot of those special features were my film school kind of, and got me farther than I used to. Before those things, when I first got into the video industry, I had read Leonard Maltin's whatever that year, 94, 95, whatever book it was, from cover to cover. So that was like my education, besides just getting into the internet and just finally kind of finding books here and there in the library about movies, until the special features on. And I mean, Laserdisc, I wished I had a Laserdisc player growing up. I mean, I know Laserdisc was where kind of special features started.
Yeah, I did, absolutely.
We never could afford it, and even if we could afford it, there was no place I could really go that wasn't 2-3 hour drive just to get Laserdiscs. But Stephanie Littlepage has given us an update on Captain Robert April. Says, hi guys.
Yes, I owe her a email back. I got her email.
She says, and Robert got your email, by the way, Stephanie. Hi, guys. Bob has moved to the rehab facility and is getting settled in. We can use your good thoughts, etc., while we're both healing. Definitely, if one of our mods can get the GoFundMe, that'd be great in the chat. If you guys can help out, any little bit will help those guys to recovery. Robert April, of course, had a very, very bad accident not too long ago, but it sounds like he's doing much better. So fingers crossed and hopeful recovery, and thoughts, prayers, and all that good stuff going out to them. We did have a bit of breaking news here I wanted to bump into. according to Geeks and Gamers, rumors abound that the October test screening for Wonder Woman 84 were not good. I know this is not going into what you, Robert, but
Oh.
this is going into what I was talking about earlier. Goofy, campy, and slow and plot heavy was used to describe the film. Hopefully the kinks can be worked out before June 5th, 2020 release date. Now, if anybody remembers our report from back before Wonder Woman came out, they got a similar test screening, but guess what? They got most of those kinks worked out. I didn't enjoy the movie as much as most people, but a lot of other people did. So it worked.
That's why you do it. That's why you do a test screening. I mean, to figure out if there's any
So I'm
places
not
where the
panicking.
movie can be tightened up. Yeah,
It's still pretty early, right?
Yeah.
It's like really
Yeah.
early.
Yeah, they've got six.
for it's supposed to be for next summer, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Next
June-
May,
It
yeah.
says it right there, June 5th. So, Robert, have you
No.
heard anything about Wonder Woman 84? Or?
Oh, I have not. I haven't heard anything. But I want it to be good. I mean, I enjoyed the first one, but I think that when they decided to go to 1984, even with the pop culture of the era and stuff, it's got to have more of a light-hearted bent to it, I would imagine.
I feel this is going to be a soft reboot. I think all these movies we're getting here they're even if they have characters from the previous DCEU, they're all going to be kind of soft reboots.
Could it be Cold War related though?
I think so. I think it probably will be.
Yeah, I think it does have a storyline. Yeah, how we're going to put it.
Even Money says we hear the classic CBS Wonder Woman theme song at some point. So, fighting for your rights in those satin tights. And
Didn't I hear a rumor that they're trying to get her in for a cameo or something?
Linda
She's
Carter,
going to be in that crossover thing event. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Linda
Which
Carter,
is
yeah.
crazy.
No, earlier I brought up Wonder Woman because we were talking about all these gender swapping things that are coming out, like Zorro and Kung Fu and Rocketeer. And I said, didn't they learn anything from the hint that was Wonder Woman? Like, there are strong female characters. Pillage these strong female characters that already exist. Quit gender swapping.
Yeah. Oh, I just want to ask Robert while we got him here. Years ago, I remember talking about Zorro. Well, I would say Zorro's a public domain character. Not many people remember Zorro who are going to movies today. I don't know who they're making this new series for, but that's beside the point. There was a movie that aired on CBS in the late 70s, a Zorro movie. And I said, you know what? I could not remember. I couldn't find it anywhere. I finally stumbled upon it. Are you familiar with the 1975 version
No.
starring Alan Delon? No?
No, but I would watch that because I love him. He was in John Pierre Melville's Le Samurai, and I'm a big fan of his. He was also in the Concorde Airport 79.
Oh yeah. If you get a chance, I tell people, I've been telling people on Facebook and Twitter and everywhere I can. If you're going to watch a Zorro movie, give all this new stuff, forego all this new stuff. Watch the 1975 version of starring Alain Delon. I remember when I was a kid, it was really good. I used to watch it with my brother and my mother and father. My father loved it years ago when it was on. He thought it was really good. Well, he grew up in Italy, all those kind of, and so a lot of it he related it to. It's very kind of like late, I guess it's late 19th century kind of Spain. So
yeah,
he remembered. I thought it was Mexico for some reason, but Spain, I guess. But he was more familiar with Zorro then. But I always keep saying, 1975 Zorro. If you get a chance, you can rent it on YouTube. I don't know if you can find it on Netflix, but it was difficult for me to track down. I finally found it just by going to IMDb and just putting in Zorro and seeing all the different versions. I'm like, yeah, that's got to be it right there. So, yeah.
I love Zorro. I mean, I loved Antonio Banderas. I love that first Zorro movie that he did.
Yeah, that was actually pretty good. Yeah.
Well, I can answer you who this Rocketeer is for. It's for little kids. It's for Disney Junior.
Oh, there's another Rocketeer coming in?
Yeah, that one I knew about. That's been known about for a while. And now when I'm not
okay.
Yeah, that's for little kids. That was for
now
7-year-old girls.
It's new Zorro. I don't know if they're going off the other plan they had before, which was it's going to be set in modern day. And whoops, did we lose Robert Meyer Burnett?
May have.
There he is.
Oops, sorry.
That's all right.
That was my bad. I was just saying I love the Antonio Banderas. That first Zorro movie I thought was really good.
Oh yeah,
right. And what I heard about this new one, I don't know if they're continuing with it, but the original pitch for a while back, and it's going to be on CW. So I'm assuming a lot of the same people are involved with that original pitch anyway. And it's supposed to be set in modern LA about a girl named Z who's actually a descendant of Zorro. So if they kind of go with that, and I think it's supposed to be set in LA or something like that, and yeah, I could see a lot of political stuff being pushed into that, unfortunately, if that's the case. But we'll see.
I like a gritty Zorro movie, R-rated, with Pedro Pascal as Zorro or something.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah,
I mean, the guy is made for that role.
Yeah, I agree with you. That I would love to see that. Bring that on.
Yeah, like I said, there's plenty of different takes on Zorro. I mean, out there. I don't want to say we don't need another one, because who really needs a new television series? But this is unnecessary.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, but oh, you mean this new take with
the new take? Yeah.
Well, it's we're living through this weird period of time now where everybody I get it. The problem to me is gender swapping is an obvious thing, but it's also lazy.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's just a lazy disguise for a remake, really.
Right. And I always wonder, like, really, is that what you're going to do?
Mm-hmm.
And also there's like, I get it. It's easier. Like, who wants to watch a period piece? We're going to have, she's a descendant of Zorro and she's going to fight crime, but then it just becomes yet another crime fighting show. Whereas it'd be really interesting to go back and see, like, I think on Disney Plus, because they had made a Zorro TV series back in the 50s or something. It's going to be curious to go back and see those, because people forget. Like, I recently watched 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I got the movie from Disney Movie Club, the Blu-ray, and I've always loved that film. And these movies were surprisingly sophisticated. They were not talking down to children, so they would make movies that were family friendly. But Captain Nemo was a dick. He was killing people. He was taking out ships on the space on the shipping lanes, and he was murdering hundreds and hundreds of people. And it's not like they soft pedaled that in the movie, and I kept thinking, like, wow, I forgot, because I've seen 20,000 Leagues a lot, but as I get older and watch these movies again, it's like, wow, they never used to talk down to kids. They would make things family friendly, but they weren't stupid. And
that's one of the things I always say, that kids are a lot smarter than you give them credit for, and if they don't understand something, they will ask questions,
right?
And that's how they learn. That's how I mean, and
that's why modern people are dumb, right?
Yeah.
No.
For someone who says, "Oh well," just using The Last Jedi as an example. Oh, dude, it's a movie for kids. What Freddie Prinze Jr. said, and I keep saying, you don't think much of children, do you? I mean, that we're gonna plop them in a chair, and they're just gonna watch whatever you shovel in front of them on the screen, because, like I said, and I have a book, actually, and Robert, you're gonna like this. I have the book version, the Art of Robotech.
Oh. Was it the Art of Robotech that was Harmony Gold published it? So
I have it in the other room, actually, but it had a long intro by Carl Masek.
Oh yeah, I've got, yes, that's a great, yes.
Yeah, Robotech Art 1.
Yes.
And it actually said that we came into this saying, you know what, the audience is smarter than people are giving credit for. We're going to treat the audience as if they're reasonably intelligent. And that seems to be one of the biggest problems now. You have everything is pandering. That the audience are idiots. They'll just accept whatever we throw. Like, no. Like, if you write something intelligent, your audience will appreciate it. They'll thank you for it, actually. And
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. Well, Gene Roddenberry said there's intelligent life on the other side of the camera. Don't forget that.
No, and I look, I think you're absolutely right. And what I think is so strange, like I have a theory about our culture now and how the youth of America, as I'm speaking, get off my lawn. But when The Simpsons first came on TV, you know, Bart Simpson became basically a cultural icon.
Mhm.
You know, and his catchphrases and his whole thing was that he was certainly smarter and could pull one over on his parents. And I grew up in a different world. I grew up in a different world where in programming, children would always learn lessons. You know, they weren't trying to get things over on their parents. That authority figures, whether you watch like, I don't know, the Partridge Family or the Brady Bunch, the kids would always make mistakes and the parents would be there to catch them when they fell and offer sage-like wisdom and sage-like advice. And somewhere along the line, you know, we flipped it around. And I think people, especially the people that grew up now that are writing so much of our television, have forgotten that. You know, they tend to write as if kids either are smarter than the parents or they know everything. And it's problematic in the sense that if that's where you're coming from, you've eliminated, or I'll take it back to a Star Trek Discovery example that we've talked about before. This idea that Spock was somehow unformed when he came on board the Enterprise, as we saw in that Discovery short take. And to me, that is the most rudimentary, inane, stupid form of writing, because Spock had gone through Starfleet Academy, he'd served on other vessels. It's not like he'd never observed humanity. Spock is smart. He's not some awkward incel kid who never got out of the house and the Enterprise was the first time he'd ever been around human beings before. That's not what it was. And I hated that kind of writing. And I think it's just like now kids are smart all the time. Kids are way smarter than adults because nobody knows how to write, just like they can't write heroes anymore. You know, they don't know how to write heroic characters because they have to give them all problems and these characters have to be more relatable. Tilly has to be more relatable to your average audience. No. In the 60s, Tilly would never have been assigned to a starship. She could not hack it. But
is that possible that was a character, sort of like a setup that they never paid off? Like Lorca had, because I can fill in a lot of blanks with headcanon on Discovery. Like Mira Lorca picked her because she's Killy in the other universe, but they never resolved that, and they just kind of forgot about it. Because I could see that as, well, yeah, he picked her because she's in this other universe, and there's no way she would have even been in Starfleet any other way. And you know, if they could tackle something like that with her character, you know, and make her strive to be.
Are you kidding me? SJWs would freak out if you did that.
I know.
I
But
think
that's giving her a reason to be, and they would never do it.
I don't want to say sinister, but I think it's more rudimentary than that. They want to show that, see, even someone who has
a little weird, a little
who's
awkward.
a little weird, they can be part of Starfleet too. You know, they want to.
Shouldn't be. Well, this is the same. This is the same as they have the guy rolling down the aisle in the wheelchair, or down the corridor in the wheelchair on the ship. And you know, it's like, okay, first off, it's not safe for anybody, and I'm not being ableist or anything. But you would either give him like the ability to walk, or you would put him as an admiral at Starfleet Academy or something. You know, you would.
I keep thinking.
For a military vessel. Sorry.
I keep thinking
job.
Now you just got me thinking of George Carlin, and you'll be traveling to Dover in this brand new wheelchair.
Well, I mean, how about the fact that 23rd technology medicine would probably be able to surmount those problems?
Right. I was just
implants, robotics, or stem cells.
Yeah, like an exoskeleton. We have those today. I mean, exoskeletons are allowing disabled people who have had spinal injuries or who could never walk are being able to walk with the. You know, there was even a Next Generation episode or a Deep Space Nine episode, Melora. Was it called Melora, where you meet she's from a low gravity environment, so she has to All right, yeah, low gravity environment, so she has to wear an exoskeleton to function, and Bashir falls in love with her.
Well, yeah, even in that episode, Jadzia says, "Hey, I haven't seen a wheelchair in a long time. I replicated it and put it together for her because they
Right.
didn't even have those."
Right, exactly. Of course, far be it for anybody to know that who's working on this. What, you mean there's an episode that dealt with this? Well, yes, there is. There's an
Well,
episode.
hey, I mean, of course.
Don't worry about that. Don't worry.
Well,
We're not gonna-
of course, you've got your first gay character ever on Discovery. I mean, let's see.
According to that, you gotta come up-
bastard shipyard. Spock had no brain and he was still made to walk. That's a good point.
Londell's movie says Tyrone Power will always be Zorro. I don't know if you guys agree with that. I haven't seen those, so I can't tell you. But I'll take your word for it, Mr. Londell. Matt G with $2. Last time anyone in Hollywood had an original idea? Question mark. Well, you're gonna, yeah, right.
But the John Wick movies are
James Cameron with Avatar.
Well, that was just Dances with Wolves.
I wouldn't even go that. Well, there is little movies all the time that are very original and stuff like that, but they just don't get the attention.
Robert Eggers, man. If you haven't seen the Lighthouse, I mean, that's a crazy movie about two guys that go batshit in a lighthouse, and I think I think there's a lot of great ideas. I mean, I live and work here in the business, but I do think there's a lot of fantastic films and things that are being made all the time. And they're being made, like, if you haven't seen Parasite, which is a Korean film, it's on Hollywood, but there's all kinds of great movies that surround us all the time. It's just not a lot of people seek them out. The major studios now have moved into more of a tentpole mindset because, well, look, we got Joker. The fact that Joker got made within the studio system and it was made for basically $62 million, and it's been as successful as it is, and it's attacking the 1%, it's attacking the American healthcare system. It's amazing. When I saw Joker, I'm like, I can't believe a studio made this movie and released it. So there are things there are moments that are pretty amazing to see. Like that, and the fact that it's going to make. If you asked me if Joker would ever make $1 billion, I would have been like, "You're crazy."
No, yeah.
But it's closing in on that, and that's not exactly. Can you imagine? Todd Phillips is like, "Yeah, Batman's not in this movie, and Joker's going to have his health care taken away, and his therapy is going to. He doesn't have the insurance to continue it." And the studio's like, sure, that sounds like what our audience wants to see. You know, the Joker, Arthur Fleck going to see a psychiatrist or stuff like that, even though it was indeed what we wanted to see, and it was bared out. And but yeah, I mean, there is a lot of good out there, I think.
Baby Driver was great, and you know, I was just talking about this. I have a video where I'm comparing some of the like box office flops versus something like Joker. Joker comes in on like 55 million reported from Box Office Mojo, and is breaking all of these all of these. I guess it's just breaking the system, as it were, because who the crap wanted a Terminator movie where you spoil? Well, do we spoil it? Well, where they do what they did in Terminator. If people don't want,
nobody's watching it anyway. You can't.
Yeah, no, nobody's watching it. Where you kill John Connor in the first 5 minutes. Nobody wants that. Like, and you can have all of your identity politics. You can have your whatever in these movies, but you still have to be a little bit respectful to the core characters. You have to give people like at least something. Give them a little snippet of something good and make it more intelligently written and not just these giant cash grab, we need to make this because of the rights. We got to hurry up and shove this thing out and because of the rights. Our rights are expiring. Yeah, we don't care.
That happens.
What it made sense.
I know. It's just for the right stuff, but and so they can keep them in their little house. But those are always the movies that I feel like they're not even worth it. I would much rather be talking about Baby Driver type movies and Joker type movies and these little obscure. I'd rather be talking about some B movie, obscure horror movie from like 1988 that two people have seen, and instead of talking about these movies that piss me off so much that I don't even want to see them, like Star Wars. I don't want to see Star Wars. That's how bad we're getting. I do not want to even see Star Wars because of all this stuff. and it's just a culmination of everything between, you know, the media and the studios going back and forth with the fan bashing and just every other thing.
Do you want to see The Mandalorian?
Not really. No, not really.
You know what would have made sense in the Terminator movie? If they just had John Connor and Sarah Connor protect John's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we were saying, yeah.
Well, I was thinking you could have John Connor now as Edward Furlong, looking the way he does now, being this kind of okay, we saved the world. Now what's my purpose? And you could go on this journey of, oh, and crap, everything happened again, and now it's this chick, and they find, you know, and you know, he and his mother are estranged. They haven't spoken to each other in all this time. She's out there hunting Terminators, just as she is now, but he's off, you know, living on somebody's couch or something, or he's like a beach bum somewhere.
A surfer or whatever, yeah.
Something. He is at this midlife crisis, this low point of I should have been the leader. I was built up as the leader of the resistance, you know, and he has to protect this young girl from Mexico who's running from Terminators. You could have all of that. You could have the border stuff. You could have every little bit in there as your message, and still treat it respectfully to the fans and the characters. But no, they don't want to do that.
Got a couple super chats. MK Ultra $2. Thank you so much. And then we got one from Gary at Nerdrotic. Gary. I sent you the link.
By the way, can I say something about Gary at Nerdrotic?
Absolutely.
Okay. I've always liked his videos, but he's stylistically, he's done something that makes his videos even cooler that I really like. He adds something at the beginning. Like if he's talking about a topic, he'll have a video clip of somebody speaking or to make his point, and then he goes into his Nerdrotic video, like his title, and it gets me going. It's like a teaser. He's added teasers to his videos. And I thought, just as a filmmaker or somebody, that I just really respected that he did that, because it gets you amped up. And I love whenever he chooses to actually cut. So whatever the video is, with the teaser video that he's doing, and the way he cuts it off and then drops in that Nerdrotic, his logo, and you hear nerdrotic.com. I guess that's one of his kids.
That's his son, yeah.
His son. I love that. And the way he does it, it just ups the, like, I'm like, ooh, I'm in now. It's like, ooh, I can tell when he does that video. I'm like, oh, Beekler's gonna go for it today. So whenever he does that, I get more excited about whatever topic he's gonna cover. And that was something new. He didn't do that. That's a fairly new thing for him. You know, it's those little things that I appreciate YouTubers when they do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
He says free super chat from YouTube makes up for the new terms of service. Hi, R&B, need to get you on soon. So that's his cry out to you that he wants to talk to you. Yeah, I talked to Gary a little bit earlier in some DMs, a little bit about all this YouTube business that we talked a little bit about earlier, but I don't know enough about it yet to really comment too much.
Well, that's the thing. We won't know a lot about it until it starts hitting people, and then by then it's going to be a huge mess, because it's YouTube. They never give us they never give us the rules or anything that we can actually follow.
Well, I read actually the state of California has taken some kind of action about it. I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly what it was, but there's people that are. I don't want to say there's a pushback, but there are people that are looking into it and saying, "Hey, this is not right the way you're doing things." So
that's interesting. So I'm a little, as much as I spend time on YouTube all the time, I don't know much about what is this? What is happening?
From what I understand, there's something called the Child Online Privacy Protection Act. It's a law that was passed in about 2002, I believe. And what it says is you cannot collect the data of children on the internet. And so YouTube, what they do is they do targeted ads. If you click on, say like you click on one of our videos and then you click on one of your videos, oh, well, you have an interest in Star Trek, so we're going to target an ad from CBS All Access that you see next time. When you click on the next video. So that's, and based on the topics, say you click on a video about Star Wars, or you click on a video about, let's just say, Super Mario Brothers, video games, whatever. Because those are videos that a child would be interested in, those topics children would be interested. What the Federal Trade Commission is saying now, oh, you need to stop targeted ads because of that, because that is collecting information from children. And so YouTube has come up with a very kind of vague list of criteria for people about their YouTube videos. Does it have this? Does it have this? XYZ? Does it have a celebrity in it that children would be interested in? Is about a topic children would be interested in? And you have to check a box before, as you upload, that says this video is not targeted toward children, or this video is targeted toward children, and you will have to do it for every single one of your videos now. And if you don't do it, it's going to be going through an algorithm, through the quote unquote learning machine. You can be fined up from anywhere from $40 to $2,000 per video. I believe
$45,000 per video, which is more than I've ever made on YouTube in my life.
Well, up to 45,000, up to 45,000,
and probably will ever. No, and that's the problem. Like, why don't they just give me a check all? No, I do not want any of my shit targeted towards kids. Can I do that? Or
no? Probably will, or they'll grandfather in certain things and make it easier for us who have a billion videos. Let's face it, what these is really for is to get those people that are doing the sick and twisted shit that are obviously doing stuff.
They're fishing for the kids' information. Yeah, that's the thing.
No, but nobody's going to know how this is going to work, and nobody is going to know how this is going to impact users until it goes into effect. And it goes into effect on January 1st, 2020. Who was it? The Quartering actually did a video on it. There's another guy who did a video on it, and because they do a lot of video game reviews, they figure, well, these are topics interested that kids will be interested in. This is probably going to affect us, and they beta tested this, and it showed that 90% of the monetization was gone from the beta testers, and so. This is actually sending nobody, and the fact that nobody's talking about this really needs to be talked about more, because I don't want to sound doom and gloom, but this is going to affect a lot of people. Yeah, this is going to affect a lot of YouTubers, and this is going to affect a lot of people who can't pay the fines. Somebody like CBS, somebody like ABC, somebody like HBO, they can pay the fines. We can't.
Yeah, what if I check my stuff as I don't want this for kids, but it's Star Wars related.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so if I say yes, this is for kids, but then I'm swearing and wearing a leather corset with cleavage down to my knees, right? Then what do I do on this? This is why I keep saying no. Well, my channel's kind of dead. I mean, my channel's screwed probably. Because I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Like, am I supposed to go in and say everything's for adults? Is that what loses the money? Because I would rather not have anything targeted at kids. I'd rather not have kids on my channel. And that's anyway.
And that's the biggest problem. Nobody knows what they're supposed to do. You've come up with a bunch of arbitrary guidelines that nobody knows how to use. And
we all
it seems
pretty well on the checkmark thing, so I'm not as concerned as I used to be, but I've also heard some things that might be implemented to help curtail this whole thing in a certain way. Now, I don't know how that's going to all work out, and I'm not going to say who told me what about it, because it's, they didn't say if I could or not, and it's not the same for every YouTuber. So this is something I think that they're taking seriously. So I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt until something goes wrong, in which case then the fingers are going to be pointed at them anyway. So it's going to turn into a big mess if they don't fix it themselves. That's all I can say on that. I just want to get to the super chat. Sister Harold says Australian $2 listening while at work. Great stream. Thank you so much. We're glad you could listen, even though this was an impromptu stream. But yeah. So anyway, yeah, I mean, this whole thing is kind of goofy. I mean, certain people it's not going to affect at all. Certain people it probably will affect. I mean, obviously, none of our crowd is children that I know of. As far as I know,
but when we talk,
I still get one or two stumbling in my live chat if I'm like,
but when we
doing
talk
a gaming stream or something.
But when we talk about Star Wars, I'm like, is the quote unquote learning machine gonna pick up on that? Oh, this is a topic targeted toward kids.
Yeah, if I do a video saying all
That's where
the
we
Star Wars
have
toys are in the
we're
shredder,
gonna
you
have
know?
control over that. I think
Yeah.
that's what I'm getting to is I think we're gonna be able to tell it
Okay,
what
but then but here's the thing, you do have control over that, but what if the bot decides, "Oh, no, you're lying," because look at how many times, you know, you say, "Oh, yes, my videos say for advertisers," and they flag you on everything.
Mhm.
9 times out of 10, I get greenlit anyway, but the bot's overly sensitive. What if the bot decides, "Oh, no, you're still talking about Star Wars toys. Kids might see this. You're fined, even though you've confirmed this." That's the case there because we all know how the bots are.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really been following this. This is quite distressing.
Mhm.
And also, like you said, you don't know when somebody's going to stumble into your channel. Like I tend to try and keep my channel on my brand is being upbeat and
Family
enthusiastic. But if I'm covering, like you said, Mecca, like Star Wars or something, and you're going to get kids to roll in to watch your, like, first of all, how are they going to define kids?
Well, yeah, exactly. There's an age limit on YouTube anyway. You have to be at least or at least 13 to have an account, I believe. And I think they've changed that since then. I don't think you should have an account on YouTube until you're 18, but you know, that's the thing. I also don't and I also think
yeah, because parents just let their kids sit there and watch YouTube all day.
I can, and for somebody like me, I used to be a gaming channel, and I would have parents just drop their kids off in front of YouTube, and I would tell them, "I'm not your babysitter. You know why are you asking me? Because I'm not equipped or trained, or I don't have nieces or nephews. I can't handle kids in a chat room. So I'm like, well, fine, you know, get the f out. You know, and this is me with my language." You know, it's one of those things, but my channel has been known to attract kids because I have done gaming in the past. And what if they're going to go and scan the old content that I've got privatized or unlisted, you know? Yeah,
And
that's
like
the other thing. Like,
and like
and
you
I've
said,
got thousands of videos on my channel that are listed right now because, you know, to keep up with the algorithm, you got to throw 3 a day. What about all the other people? The last time they changed everything and they're like, "Oh no, only family friendly content on YouTube." So people were started flagging everything family friendly, you know, because this is one of the early adpocalypses where they're like, "Oh, they're just demonetizing any video game with like guns or shooting. And the only games you can play on YouTube are family friendly ones now because that's what they want." And that's what everybody thought. So that's what everybody switched their content to for a little bit in gaming. And like,
reminds me of New York in the late '90s when Giuliani passed the Family Content Act. You had all the adult bookstores with adult movies in the windows, and then 2 weeks later you go back and it's all Disney movies in the windows. That seems like what they're trying to do. I mean, they're just trying. I know they want to protect themselves. I mean, Google wants to protect their business interests, but at the same time, they're making it so that it's difficult to know what exactly they want us to do. Again, like I said, if we're talking Star Wars, I mean, is that a topic kids are going to be interested in? I mean, something like Ether Van Sciver when he does his unboxing of the Rose Tico toys. I mean, oh well, he's unboxing a Star Wars toy that obviously appeals to kids. You know, there's just way too much gray area in here, and something is going to happen, and it's gonna be a crap show.
well, they've already nuked all the conspiracy theory channels. Like they've flat out deleted some of them and are just demonetized.
Well, they haven't nuked Sarvok Jones. That's for sure. That's right. That's in case you don't know, Robert, Mr. Burnett. Sarvok Jones is my new Romulan or Klingon or Vulcan conspiracy theorist. Sarvok Jones, they're turning the Gorns gay. They got chemtrails and the warp cells are turning the Gorns gay. So
that's actually funny. You guys just call me Rob. It's so I only use Robert Meyer Burnett professionally.
Well, the problem is we have another Rob here. That's
right.
Keep doing it. Otherwise, I would Rob. Yeah,
and I've got my nightly caffeine on, so watch out. So.
Oh God, we're doomed.
That's so funny.
I mean, I hope we're just overreacting. I hope that it's something that they're taking, you know, very seriously. And the things that I heard, I have a feeling we're going to be able to have a little bit more control over what we consider as kids material, no matter what it's about. It's kind of like, now, but I think they need to find this gray area so people like us can continue to be monetized and talk about more adult topics, but yet still not be demonetized every darn time, which I'm sure
you can't talk about adult topics either, because if you put LGBT in there, it's demonetized. If you put
here's the thing is I think
politics,
they're more worried about the videos that are actually out there to trick people, or videos that are actually harmful for children, and all this other kind of crap. I mean, not to bring it up, but what was it? Who was the old clown and the old thing that tell kids to go in their parents' purse and send them money? I can't remember who it was.
Krusty?
No. Was it Rusty Nails, or was it somebody like that? I can't remember.
Well, Rusty Nails was who Krusty was based on, but I think I know who you're talking about. They don't want these children's show sort of, and I guess. How do I phrase this? You already have grown people playing Fortnite to a bunch of 10-year-olds. You have people like PewDiePie, whose audience are largely 10-year-olds. He wouldn't say, yes, my content is just for children, or my content is specifically aimed at children. He is just making content for people who enjoy whatever he does. I guhe does get gaming stuff or whatever. I don't really watch him, but he would say, yes, my content is for everybody, right? And he happens to have a crap ton of children watching him, and that's kind of the thing. Like, you've got you might have some adults out there who are doing gaming streams who do tell the kids, hey, go send us all your money, go send me this in super chats, because I've certainly said something kind of to that effect. It's like, dude, guys, I'm not getting paid to babysit you guys. If you guys want me to solve your problems, you can drop a Streamlabs donation or something. This is before super chat was a thing, and I wasn't meaning it seriously. And then of course I'd always follow up with like, yeah, but don't do that, because you're probably kids, so don't do that, because you can never really tell who's on the other side. But I think what really frustrates me is that they're making it so that the parents, again, are not responsible for their children. This is just like putting in a V chip in your TV instead of, taking some responsibility. If it's a problem of what your kid is watching on YouTube, maybe don't let them watch YouTube unsupervised. Maybe don't give them a cell phone when they're super young and hook them up to YouTube on the internet super young. I mean, that's just a suggestion. I don't know. This is coming from somebody who doesn't have kids, but.
Well, you got to see my nephew, 4 years old. You take the phone away from him. He's like, ah, and then he'll
he gets smack. Don't you scream at me? Why'd you scream at me? Go to your room.
he'll tap away on the phone and scream simultaneously. Ah, I'm like, okay, you need to do something about this kid. Like,
scream, something better be wrong, and you're,
yeah.
I don't want to hear.
Well.
All right.
Kids today.
I'm a parent. I know it's not as easy as it sounds, but anyway, let's move on to something a little bit more positive. Something that's not so positive. Stieg had to leave. It's very early for him, so do check him out on Shenanigans and every other place that he pops up. I know he doesn't really have much on his YouTube channel, so he doesn't really care if anybody promotes it. He just shows up when people need him. He calls himself the just a friend of the family. He always does. I think that's fitting. But yeah, so I mean, I think this is interesting on another kind of sentiment about this whole thing, Robert, off of what your show was about today, as far as like how everything's just so negative and everybody hates everything. Have you noticed with this whole gray business? Have you heard about this?
Oh, you mean Den of Nerds?
Yeah.
Oh, I was there. I was there. I watched his video, and here's what I thought about it. He's talking about how what he basically did was he created a new country. He created new borders and new, he isolated, he created, okay, if you've got two warring factions, basically he created what he wants to be as a neutral country, but really isn't. It's a third country. That's what I thought. This Jedi, what's it called? The Gray Council?
The Gray Order. The
Gray Order. And I'm like, and here's the thing. I appreciate what he was trying to do. I was like, good on you, man. You want to have some place but now what you're doing is you're inherently saying that this country that I'm creating is better, at least in my mind, is better than these other countries. And I thought that was sort of interesting And I look, I watch his stuff too. I like his videos, and but I'm like, I don't know if you can now, like, if you're a member of the Fandom Menace, can you join his country? Will he issue you a passport to come live in his land? I mean, how does that work?
I don't know. All I could think of is the neutral planet from Futurama. That's all I could think of when he said that. He goes, I have no strong feelings either way. You know, all I know is my gut tells me maybe. You know, it just, you know, yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's just seems, yeah, those guys, those guys, which is actually a fun, hysterical episode if you've ever seen it. But it just seems so wishy-washy, you know. I'm like, come on, you got it. Okay, I know you don't like the whole taking sides, but have an opinion. If I ask you, what do you think? Don't say, oh well, really, do we need to go there? It's and I left that video of the neutral planet on his Twitter feed. Which is kind of a rude thing to do, but it just seems funny that he wants to call himself the Gray Order and not take sides. So,
well, here's what I think. This is what I think is sort of missing from the conversation, and what's missing from the conversation is sort of the business realities of what these companies that are bringing this material to us are dealing with. And I don't like it when it gets lost. Like, for instance, the idea, and reading Bob Iger's book, and I've thought about this a lot, like what their mandate with Star Wars, for instance, they're going to spend $4 billion plus on Star Wars. It's a lot of money. They have to justify that to their shareholders. And so the fact that they bought Star Wars, good on them. That was a big deal. And they have to justify this cost. That's a big deal too. Now, where I object to what Disney then decided to do is that Disney turns around and says, we have to make the most familiar Star Wars that we can, because we can't take risks because it's $4 billion. And we have to create new characters, because after all, these old 60-year-old characters, that who wants that? And from their perspective, I understand their reasoning. I completely get it. What that doesn't take into account is the actual things that audiences want, which are great characters and great storytelling, because you can't quantify that on a spreadsheet. You can't. What does that mean? Great characters and great storytelling. Well, it's kind of like something that's obscene. I'll know it when I see it. And it's hard to say to somebody, well, how do you create? Of course, we want to create great characters and a great story, but we need to do it in the most family-friendly, most the easiest possible way. It's not going to challenge anybody. We just have to make, what Star Wars was? Well, you have the Empire versus the Rebellion. So we'll give you the First Order versus the Resistance, which, by the way, from a storytelling standpoint, makes no sense at all. So what you're doing is you're saying the last time we saw these characters, 30 years have passed by and they're in the exact same place. There's the same war going on. Well, that's not good storytelling. And that's certainly not what all of the storytellers that worked in the EU have been doing since Timothy Zahn's the Thrawn trilogy and the Dark Empire comics in the early 90s. If you've already been given these stories that are better than what they're giving to us on film now, you have a problem. There's a problem. If I'm more entertained by the storyline of a Star Wars video game than I am about the movies, there's a problem. Mm-hmm. And yet there's nobody that what you do is you hire somebody like Kathleen Kennedy is used to. She hires world-class filmmakers that already know what they're doing. You know, when she went to work for Steven Spielberg on E.T., he'd already made Close Encounters. He'd already made Jaws. He'd already made Raiders of the Lost Ark. She came in and worked with him, and she worked with him before, but as her first job as a producer, she's working on E.T. And what a producer, she comes in, and Spielberg has said she's one of the best producers he ever worked with, because what she's doing is she's a great producer, makes sure that a filmmaker has everything they need to realize the vision of the movie that they're making. That's what a great producer does. Make sure all the ducks are in a row, make sure that all the sorry, my dogs are barking. My personnel and they're where they're supposed to be, and then the filmmakers get to do their thing. But when you inherently have a company that has a vested interest in making sure that $4 billion are taken care of, they're the ones on the top dictating down. They're saying, this is what we need. Now, as a company, they don't know. I mean, Disney has people that make, like Pixar has their own methodology. They have their own process. Disney doesn't go into Pixar and go, this is you have to do this. They know that Pixar is going to be able to deliver what they're supposed to deliver. But in the case of Lucasfilm and in the case of Star Wars, they did not have an apparatus already in place to make movies because they hadn't been making movies. Whereas Pixar had an apparatus to make films. They had a whole pipeline. They knew what they were doing. Lucasfilm didn't. And so when they picked up Lucasfilm, it wasn't like they had a methodology to make live action movies at the time, because they didn't. So Disney's telling them, okay, here's what we need. And what they needed has nothing to do with whether Star Wars is good or bad. It's just a generic, we've bought this brand, you need to make the sausage, and it has to be as familiar as possible. And so we end up with a galaxy that essentially has not changed since Return of the Jedi. And that's Star Wars fans are looking at it going, what? This isn't even, this is storytelling 101. If 30 years have passed, where is the galaxy? What we want to know is Han, Luke, Leia, Chewie. That's where we're at. You've got to tell us that story, because that's the question that's left dangling. And they never did that. Their mandate was, we have to start anew. You have to create all these new, fresh characters, which are really just amalgamations of characters we've seen before. So they weren't even allowed to start and do something that was inherent to the story that they're telling. This new Star Wars Force Awakens was mandated by Disney corporate. And that's just the reality of how business is done. But that's diametrically opposed to how to tell a great story with great characters. And that's problematic. I mean, that's problematic for any franchise. And when these things start to be, whereas you look at Marvel, when Marvel started, and I've said this before, Tony Stark, if you look at the first Iron Man, it's a very intimate story about one man having a change of heart, realizing that the person he is not the person he should be or he really wants to be. And if you look at even the end, when Tony is fighting Jeff Bridges and is fighting Ironmonger, Obadiah Stane, it's just two guys fighting each other on the streets of LA in the Iron Man suits. There's no apocalyptic world-ending scenario. It's two guys basically fighting for the soul of their company and fighting each other. A mentor is now fighting his offspring, essentially.
His protege, yeah.
A protege, and that's classical storytelling that wasn't about a universe, and that's why Iron Man 1 worked, because it brought the MCU to literally down to earth, down to the asphalt, and people understood that. Mm-hmm. And they can build from that. And basically with Thor and Captain America, they told variations on these stories where a single character was learning something about themselves, was having a comeuppance. It was classical storytelling. And as they built, they knew they wanted to make a universe, but if one of those three movies had failed, it never would have worked. And they built it film by film. And then they were able to plan as they knew more and more success was happening. But with Star Wars, they didn't have that luxury. With Star Wars, they had spent the $4 billion. So they had to come up with something that had to, let's give an audience the most familiar thing that we can. And that's what they did. And it wasn't necessarily about, because ultimately, if they only ever made one Star Wars movie, they hoped it would be successful enough that they could later make their $4 billion back marketing Star Wars to continue to do what they were doing.
Let me ask you, what do you think? Because the first three movies of, well, excluding Hulk, really, Incredible Hulk, but the movies you mentioned, Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, all are the classic hero's journey. This first Star Wars is the original Star Wars trilogy is the classic hero's journey. What do you think of this idea now that many believe that the classic hero's journey is some sort of anachronistic or antiquated idea? Because we're seeing the result of that.
I think that's inane. The classical hero's journey has worked for thousands of years because it's inherently the journey of all people. All human beings. I'm not saying we're all going to become Luke Skywalker or Captain Kirk, but in our own lives, we have to overcome. We have our own hero's journey. There are people that have to, if you look at a movie like Rudy, the football movie, about this kid that's a hero's journey.
The Natural,
the Natural. I mean, every single human being has. You could take a part of your life where I'm competing in the National Spelling Bee. And you could follow that character from the time they decided to join whatever group they joined to become a speller. Maybe they are from a single parent family that doesn't have a lot of money and their mother's depressed or on Zoloft or whatever. And the kid has to figure out, how can I get myself to school? And then the kid makes it to the National Spelling Bee and triumphs. That's a hero's journey. And in our own lives, there's always little stories that every human being goes through that they themselves have an obstacle they have to overcome, and hopefully they can overcome that obstacle. So we all inherently understand the hero's journey, and it always works because the way human life works is it lends itself to the hero's journey. I mean, I think the idea that you want to get rid of that is ridiculous. Now, the details can change. You can have the anti-hero's journey and take the story backwards. But for the most part, you're also dealing with, in the case of the MCU, superheroes. You're dealing with the mythic form, and it's there's only so much you can do with it, especially within that context. If you're going to make the Avengers, and I think for the most part, I'm a huge fan of the MCU. I think what they've done is I dare say, I've said this before, but I'll say it again. I think what they've done is a marvel. I can't believe we have 23 movies in the history of Hollywood. They have, varying degrees of success. But for the most part, I remember I was sitting first of all, I sat in the first Avengers and I thought to myself, I can't fucking believe I'm watching this movie. I couldn't believe it existed. And I can't believe, I thought I had the first 20 minutes are a little rough, but as it got into it, I'm like, I can't believe I'm watching an Avengers movie and I'm enjoying it as much as I am. And when I got to the point where Hulk and Thor are standing next to each other and Hulk just punches the hell out of Thor, smashing him off the frame, I'm like, I can't believe this exists. I can't believe it. Because the people behind it, Kevin Feige, he worked on 13 movies, Marvel-related movies, whether it's Daredevil or Ghost Rider or Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, the X-Men movies. He worked on 13 Marvel movies before Iron Man. And he really understood and knew because he worked on them. He saw what worked and what didn't work. He was already somebody who had a really vast working knowledge of that source material. He worked for Richard Donner, who made Superman the movie, as a PA. I mean, he really understood it from the inside out and had a vision and implemented it. And look, they're not going to go make an R-rated MCU movie. I mean, maybe with Blade, they're going to have to because you're bloodletting and all that. But, I think what they have done is an amazing thing. And the fact that they played with the forms, like Ant-Man is essentially a heist movie. And within the framework of Ant-Man, you have characters like Luis who would explain when he would tell a story, and the fact that they were able to do that. That was some really fun filmmaking that is unique to the Ant-Man movies. And I think what they've done is pretty amazing. And the fact that Kevin Feige knew that after the Infinity Saga, you can't duplicate that. So what they're doing is they're making these new movies. They have to pull back, and make new movies. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which now we know ties into both WandaVision and the Loki series. So doing this again, going from TV to movies, has never been done as intertwined as it is going to be in this new saga, which I think is really interesting. But again, I wouldn't be surprised. I honestly would not be surprised if Kevin Feige takes over Star Wars entirely.
What do you think, though? I mean, getting back to the hero's journey, though, I mean, inherently, I keep thinking that the biggest problem with a character like Rey is usually, with Luke Skywalker, you have a discernible arc. Rey her journey is a flat line. I just can't get past that. I mean, you have a character that she could do everything out of. Do you think there? It's been said that there's some mandate in Hollywood now. It's an unwritten mandate. You can't make female characters look weak or have them fail. I mean, what's your take on that?
Well, here's the thing. I think when it comes down to it, Rey is a badly written character from the beginning. Like when she's introduced, I mean, if you think about it, okay, so let's say you want to play the whole beat that she's scavenging, for instance, right? She's an orphan that's scavenging. That's interesting. But why not do something like have Rey? It's not just crashed Star Destroyers on Jakku. There was a battle above Jakku. So Jakku is a planet that is surrounded by space garbage, by the wreckage of countless spaceships. So why, in the very beginning of the movie, she can do the same thing? She's a salvage operator, but she would operate, say, a one-man like retrieval pod where she's actually in orbit. And she's using this machine to scavenge the same thing. She's scavenging ship parts or whatever, but at the same time, you're showing her as a crack pilot, and she's in orbit, and visually that would be striking and arresting. You're seeing the wreckage of all of these ships in the battle and all that. And then she brings back the pieces and gives them to Unkar Plutt, and is clearly works for him. But you give her, first of all, you show that she has abilities. She's a pilot, and being a pilot in a bunch of space debris shows she's a good pilot. So if she's going to get behind a spaceship, she's had space hours, she's flown in space. But in the movie that we're given, there's no indication she can fly in space. And there's the argument that's been given to me is like, well, you don't know Luke can fly either, but he's established throughout the film that he's picking up power converters. He has his land speeder. He's got a garage. He can build. Droids are not beyond him.
Handy though at the end of Empire though.
What's that?
Wouldn't that flying thing kind of come in handy at the end of Empire though? Just saying.
It's not. Remember, it's not impossible. I used to bullseye womp rats in my T16.
It's my T16 back home.
And they're not much bigger than 2 meters. So okay, there's like little lines of dialogue that could fix so many things. There's a lot of stuff, but the whole thing that killed it for me was when they make their escape. When her and Finn make that escape, and they say, and Finn says to her, "How did you learn how to fly like that?" And what does she say? Tom, you let me down here, Tom.
She just says, "I don't know." Like
she said, I don't know.
I literally have not watched the movie in like 2-3 years now.
Well, I mean, no, but I think you're right about that. And this is the problem that right then and there, you have an unformed character. Like you can make great female characters. We saw it, Ripley, Buffy. And characters, by the way, that are great female characters that also don't sacrifice their femininity. They're not just women that are written as men. They're true female characters.
Like Sarah Connor, they made her a failure just to do this new thing with Terminator. I don't think they thought about that for a moment.
No, I think that's problematic. I mean, my Burnett axiom, I always say, never put your universe before your characters or your story. Never put your agenda before your characters and your story either. You know, you're not doing anybody any favors. The reason characters like Ripley or like Buffy or like Thelma and Louise have endured is because they were great characters that were believable and were stayed true to themselves. And when it comes to writing, you know, the mythic forms, the reason they've endured for so long is because they work. And whether you're telling the hero's journey of a female character or a male character, I'm sure someone's going to go, well, what about all the different 72 other genders? Okay, fair enough. Whatever gender you're talking about, the character,
there's that.
you still have to establish your character. And there are ways that they've been doing that for thousands of years in stories we tell each other, and you can't take shortcuts. And I feel like I've never liked one of J.J. Abrams' films as a director, a writer director, because I feel that I'm watching bad copies of other movies, and I don't understand it. I don't understand how somebody who's grown up watching films, everything is a shorthand. Like, you know, when you meet Poe Dameron, he's talking to Max von Sydow's character, Loris Fonseca. Like, who is this guy? It's like we're in a scene that should be halfway into the movie. Like, they should be trying to get to Loris Fonseca. You meet Max von Sydow, you don't know where you are, what you're doing. Why are we talking to this guy? You know, you don't know anything about the situation. And I understand people go, well, you didn't know anything about the situation in Star Wars. If you could teach a class on narrative with the original Star Wars film, because the original crawl on A New Hope, or what I call Star Wars, tells you everything you need to know. And then the next 5 minutes of the film, when you see the blockade runner, you see everything reinforced that you were told in that crawl. You're like, okay, now I see the two forces. Now I met all these people. I met Princess Leia, who's, by the way, a badass. Princess Leia, you know, standing up to Vader and Tarkin, lying to them, insulting them to their face. I mean, she's a badass character. While her ship is being attacked, she's making sure those plans get off that blockade runner. And here's a capable, strong female character who's kicking ass in the first 5 minutes of Star Wars.
There's literally more going on in the first 10 shots.
Yeah.
Of the first Star Wars than goes on almost the entirety of the Force Awakens.
Yeah, Anthony Trucker actually brought up a good point. When you see the blockade runner, and then you see it being pursued by the Star Destroyer, and the Star Destroyer takes up the whole frame.
Yeah,
that tells you, hey, the rebels here are completely outgunned. There is some serious shit going down.
Yeah,
and so yeah. And that is actually brilliant storytelling.
Well, you already kind of there with the crawl, like Robert said, and
yeah,
I think Brian De Palma helped Lucas write that because the original crawl was stupid as hell, I guess. But anyway.
Well, even the subtle visual cues, you know, you've got the bad guys in black, the good guys in white or brighter
even
colors.
Though they got a lot of shit for that, but
well, still, who cares? It's not racist. It's evolution to caves and sunlight. Get over it. Bite me. No, but no, you're absolutely right. J.J. Abrams is a copy and paste director. I mean, and watching the Rise of Skywalker trailer, I'm like, well, that's from Into Darkness. We've seen that before in Force Awakens.
Yep. Wait, I need to hit these super chats real quick before they disappear.
Sure, yeah.
Nation, $5. Here's $5 because nobody asked for it. Much needed content creator conversation. Glad you enjoyed it. No reward needed. Although Mecha Random Boob Shake would be nice, JK. So I'm not going to ask her to do that because she's not on camera. Matt G, $5. Are Clockwork Orange and Joker, etc., a variation of the hero's journey, or is such a thing as the villain's journey? Is there another name for it? A fall from grace? I mean, I don't know.
It's the hero's journey. Is
a tragedy.
The hero's journey is pretty much just. I mean, that's what's called the hero's journey. I mean, that's. I don't know of another name for it.
Asking though, I mean, it's like the fall from like the fall of Skywalker to Vader. That's what the prequels are about.
Okay.
Or, you know what I mean? Like I guess What do you think, Robert? You're actually more of the authority.
Well,
on this.
no, I would say yes. I would say that even though you have the hero, meaning the hero of their story, and I think that both Alex and Joker are definitely they're protagonists of their story. They might be anti-heroes, but they are still absolutely going through a hero's journey. They're transforming. Even though by the end Alex is put back together.
Yeah,
but I think
kind of victim themselves in some way, like with Alex especially, they become the victim themselves, and almost to a point with like Vader and stuff. Yeah, I don't know if that.
Yeah, but I mean they're protagonists and they go through. We call it a hero's journey, but I think it's you're just because both Joker and Alex are anti-heroes, but they're still the star of their own story. And really, Arthur Fleck's story is he, even though he's a villain, we know he's a villain. He goes from his horrible circumstances and he prevails. He triumphs, and he at the end of the movie can become the murderous psychopath we all know he could be. So he has in fact triumphed. So I would say that the Joker is a hero's journey, and Alex in a way, I guess if you looked at it, is. He's an amoral sociopath, if not a psychopath and a murderer, but he goes through a whole journey and he also triumphs in the end because he overcomes the adversity. He retains himself. The movie is about how his individuality and his free will was stripped away from him. And yet he prevails, even though he tries to kill himself. And at the end, he's put back in order to keep the government that wronged him. So I think they're both in a way heroes' journeys, even though I mean the word hero's journey is probably not applicable to them, but I definitely think so. I definitely think at the end of the day, we want the Joker to. I don't want the Joker to reform. You're watching the origins of a man is going to become Batman's greatest adversary. So at the end of the story, I want him to become Batman's greatest adversary. I don't want him to get the psychological help he needs. I don't want him to become a good member of society. I want him, to become the murderous psychopath that he is. And in that sense, I found his triumph at the end heroic.
That's a very good question, though. I don't know if there is necessarily a word for that, but yeah, I mean, I enjoy the movies like that where they can take a different look at society and people. I mean, look at like one of my favorite movies is God darn it, the Goodfellas.
That one with the guy. The one with the guy.
All my life I wanted to be a gangster.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a movie about nobody in that movie is a good person. Not in a single one of them, I don't think. I mean, it's like I am I bad for liking that movie? No. Do the bad guys really win in the end? Not really. I mean, if there are any good guys, not really.
But still, you're still watching the story of a character going through his life, like entering a world and navigating that world. And for a time, the Lufthansa heist and all that, you're still watching a character make a journey. It might not necessarily be a heroic journey. I don't know what Joseph Campbell would say about it, but it is a very well realized and well considered. It answers all the questions. You don't ask yourself, well, how come he's such a good gangster? I mean, you're watching him become that. And that's what's so interesting. I mean, I think the problem that I had with Force Awakens and Rey's journey is the movie. They didn't want this new series to be about like Luke. It literally was about Luke's journey, going from being a boy to a man, and then the mechanics of that. They wanted to take a shortcut with Rey. They just didn't want to deal with any of that stuff. They needed to get her into a place where, she was already capable. She could fly the Millennium Falcon better than we ever saw Han Solo fly the Millennium Falcon. I mean, that scene at the beginning of Force Awakens with the Falcon flying through the Star Destroyer, when I saw the movie the first time, that the movie completely lost me there. I'm like, I don't believe this. I don't believe this for a second. And it's not because I don't want to watch a female protagonist. I like watching female protagonists as much as the next person, but she was not well written. I did not believe that character. I just didn't believe, like, I didn't even believe she was living off, if she's living off of Unker Plutt, and why wouldn't she just go and say, hey, what do you need me to get you? Like, it would have been more interesting if she was like a badass scavenger, like Mad Max, and she was really capable, and she could beat down people that came after her because she'd been living that life, but yet she still was waiting for her parents to come back. But she was living in a harsh environment, and she'd learned skills that we would have seen. You know, we would have seen this life that she had been living in or something. And it's all unearned, and I just didn't buy into it. And now, what is her story? Like, at the end of the day, what is the story that Rey is on? Does she want to find out who her parents are? Well, that's not much of a story. Does she want to become a Jedi? She didn't even know Jedis existed for real. So she didn't want to do that. I want to know what her story is. Like, what is she trying to accomplish? What is Kylo Ren trying to accomplish? I mean, what is he? Kylo Ren. Raylo. I've been watching the Oral Knots video too many times. But what does he want? Like, okay, so Luke was going to kill him, but what does he hope to do with the First Order? He has no philosophy other than kill the past. Well, then what? Like, what do you want to do, dude? Do you want to start an empire again? Do you want to have a democracy again? What is it you're looking to do? You don't know. Even Vader says, well, join me. We can end this destructive conflict and bring order to the galaxy. These people, that what they want. But with the characters in these new movies, we don't know what it is they're trying to accomplish. They're just wandering around the universe doing what?
Rose, and she's batshit crazy when she does it, damn near killing.
I pictured Kylo Ren Terrence, who plays Zod? Terrence Stamp in Superman 2. When Ursula says to him, you are ruler of all that you survey, as I was yesterday and the day before. It's just kind of blasé. I mean, what kind of, again, like you said, Kylo Ren doesn't believe in anything. I don't know what he wants.
I mean, what's really with Star Wars, this scene, I think one of the great scenes in terms of narrative and storytelling is when you meet Governor Tarkin, you meet Tarkin and Vader, and you see that meeting of all the regional governors, commanders, and they're having this conversation. And when Vader says, don't be too proud of this technological terror you've constructed. The ability to destroy a planet is insignificant next to the power of the Force. And then the other guy's like, don't try and frighten us with your sorcerer's ways, Lord Vader. You see immediately that there is there's the technological side, and then there is the spiritual side, this power, the Force wielder. You see that there's a rift here. And you can tell, in a way, it sets up an expectation that, oh, okay, so Vader is a guy that kind of exists outside of the Empire. He works with the Empire, but he's his own thing. And from an audience perspective, that this guy is kind of his own man who might be biding his time. You don't know what is up, but you just know that he's not really a part of the Empire, but he's certainly along for the ride and what they're going to get for him. And again, if you look at Star Wars, it's narrative simplicity, but the reason that movie connected with people so much is because you're learning all of this stuff all the time, and you're never unsure of where you are, who everybody is, and what they want. You know it. You get it. And with these new, and I feel, by the way, that the same is true of Star Trek Discovery. They've given us a character that the idea of dealing with someone who's not the captain for a Star Trek show is a really good idea, but they've basically then, instead of write that, they gave us a character that becomes literally the fulcrum of all the universe. The importance of everything is one character, and she becomes completely uninteresting and unbelievable because she's no longer real. she's a character that can literally do everything, and it makes
Yep.
no sense at all.
I've often said that everybody else on the Discovery is just a cardboard cutout, and they position them just in the right place, in the right positions, so that Michael Burnham can come along and solve whatever problem there is that week, and they can all say, "We're sure glad you helped us, Michael Burnham. We could never done it without you." And I keep pointing to an episode of Futurama where Fry wrote a book about a superhero named Delivery Boy, and he would just keep adding powers as he needed them, as you know, he could do whatever the plot required him, and that's probably the most boring thing I could imagine, especially you're taking, and I've often said this about Star Trek Discovery and about prequels in general. You're taking a universe that is so large and expansive, and you're shrinking it down. In the case of Star Trek Discovery, you're shrinking it down to one person. And a person that's not even that interesting. Michael Burnham. Yeah. That she's the alpha and the omega. Everything comes back to her. I'm like, no, I don't care. Show me something I've never seen before, please.
Well, not only that, she's just an insufferable bitch of a character. I mean, she's rude, she's arrogant, she's snotty, she assaults her captain. She's got to go call back to daddy. She is the perfect participation trophy generation sort of self-insert character. You know, these bitchy, entitled little brat characters who think they know everything despite being absolutely useless at everything. She didn't even go to Starfleet. If she did, she would have learned something. I mean,
I made a video of all her crimes, of all Michael Burnham's crimes one time, and it's like she's assaulted her captain, she's disobeyed orders, she's caused the destruction of the Federation flagship, she's got most of her crew killed, she started an interplanetary war, she's committed mutiny, and she's caused the death of the vice admiral, and she still thinks she's the smartest mother effer in the room. How is she allowed to serve on a starship? How do you even let her near a hand phaser?
Oh, well, see, you're just an ist because you don't like her.
Good, I'm an ist. I don't care.
But I just think that what's really interesting is that this kind of writing is doing a disservice to all of it. You know,
humanity, I think, because then people stop having something to look forward to and strive for.
Do
and aspire to be, right?
I mean, do people take writing courses at universities anymore, or are they just going into special effects and computer programming? Because that's what it seems like. A lot of these people who are like Alex Kurtzman, wasn't he a special effects artist or something like that? Tom, do you know? Or
who's that?
They were writing for Xena, weren't they? Kurtzman and Orsi. They start out writing for Hercules and Xena.
Yeah, as far as I know.
And that.
I mean,
he's responsible for the one episode that I remember because it was terrible and it made me not watch Xena and Hercules after a while. Because I remember 1996, they were showing it. I remember I was at a party. And I remember being way more interested in hearing Marilyn Manson playing on the stereo upstairs. But no, it was downstairs and they were showing this episode, and it's the same thing on Hercules and Xena. On Hercules, they're throwing a pig in the air, and while before it lands, Hercules has to swing a sword and fight. And on the Xena episode, it's a baby. So yeah, total hacks. Thanks, Alex Kurtzman, for being responsible for the one episodes of both of those series that I remember being absolute just annoying for some reason.
Anti-Trekker does a great video about all the different parts of Star Trek Discovery, the finale, that they stole from other things. It's like everything from Iron Man to Clockwork Orange or 2001. It's just amazing to see. I mean, and it's mind-boggling. Nobody in the writers' room or in editing said, "Wait a minute, this seems awfully familiar." Or maybe they didn't, or maybe they didn't say, "Hey, go with it." I don't know.
I can't believe they took the whole last half of the season from David Mack's Star Trek novel Control, his Section 31 novel Control, and I'm like. His Section 31 novel is actually called Control, and it's all about the AI, and he never gets any credit. And I've been the one that's been, David Mack has written some of the greatest Star Trek stories over the last decade and a half. if you haven't read his Destiny trilogy, he wrote the Ultimate Borg story. He wrote a trilogy about Data and all of Dr. Sung's other robots or androids that we came across. I mean, the guys, they know Star Trek. They write great Star Trek, and they just pilfered his story, and it's unbelievable. And I'm like, how do you live with yourself when you know that there's a Star Trek novel, a Section 31 Star Trek novel called Control about AI, and you guys just and by the way, they did it horribly on the show. I'm like, if you're gonna do it, why not go into his book and just adapt what was there? Because it would have been
because then they'd have to pay him, or threaten not to sue him, like Anasa Bean.
And this is why I don't understand why some of those people like on Axamonitor and all that kind of crap can't see how the people at Discovery could rip somebody like Anasa Bean off and not only steal his idea but make it worse and screw it up.
Well, I mean, now I get to say I mean, I wasn't gonna. It's very funny. About a year and a half ago, I was contacted. I don't remember who contacted me, and they said that the third season of Discovery is going to be very familiar to you.
Oh boy!
And I said, really? and they told me what they were doing, and I'm like, well, that's. At first, I was like, okay. So many of you might know that back in 2005, along with Jeffrey Thorne, who's a Star Trek novelist and a TV writer, and I was working on Superman Returns, and I had dinner with Bryan Singer and Chris McQuarrie, and I was saying that Enterprise had gone off the air, and over a very sake-soaked evening, I said, we should pitch Star Trek, and I said McQuarrie should write it, Bryan should direct it, and I'll be your consulting producer. And so they're like, well, what should it be? And I pitched them this idea and it wasn't based on Roddenberry's Andromeda, but I was just thinking that in 600 years, I was thinking in the year 3000, because Legion of Superheroes, but I was thinking that what if the Federation, everybody, the member worlds, everybody changed. There was reunification between the Vulcans and the Romulans. The Klingons became more like, warrior mystics, and the Bajorans sort of retreated in. So the galaxy as we knew it, it just changed. Things change. You don't stay the same. And the Federation was no longer what it used to be. And it was spread too thin. They were no longer building starships because they had spread out across the Milky Way, and it was falling apart. It was just coming apart at the seams because it was old, not necessarily dystopian, but it was old, and things had fallen away, and they had to build a new starship. It'd be the first starship that was built in like 100 years, and they would deal with this coming event, these aliens out there. So anyway, it was called Star Trek Federation, and we wrote this treatment, and they were I was gonna give it to Bryan. He was gonna take it to Paramount and pitch it, and then it was announced that J.J. Abrams and Bad Robot were gonna reboot Star Trek. So it never went further than that. But the treatment was out there, and then in 2012, Trek Core did a story on all these unmade Star Trek ideas, and they contacted me because they had the treatment. And we did an interview about it. And when I saw the trailer for Star Trek Discovery season 3, I'm like, oh, now I see what they're saying. And it's not like it's an idea unique to me. I mean, I was also thinking about the fall of Rome. What happens to a once great society when everything suffers from entropy, and time takes its toll, and the Federation wasn't going to last forever, or it was going to mutate or change or do something else. But it was really interesting to see that. I mean, what are the odds? And that also Roddenberry's Andromeda deals with elements of that as well. And it's just, again, why does you watch that final episode of Discovery? I watch it like 3 times. I still don't get it. I'm like, why are you going into the future? You defeated Control. This AI is gone. So why are you leaving? I still don't get it.
Because it would mess up canon to have the ship there, and they didn't want to hear us complaining. They didn't want to hear any more. Yeah, I know. They will, and still, they didn't want to hear any more. Oh yes, but in this episode, they didn't want to hear the nitpicking. They didn't want to hear the fans' arguments or the anti-fans. And and then they thought that this is going to wrap it up with, oh, and we never speak of Michael Burnham again.
I mean, that was some of the dumbest. Look,
Thanks,
Discovery.
Michelle Paradise. I didn't realize you were an absolute moron until I saw that episode.
Yeah, and she absolutely just like couldn't run away from us faster at Star Trek Las Vegas. It was amazing. What? When the tension's here, get me on. Where's the door?
That's okay. She's anti-Egyptian gay men though, clearly, because her show condones the abuse that Nasruddin has been given, in my opinion. So, including the death threats and decapitated heads and the anti-gay slurs that have been mailed to him and his home address. So, thanks, Michelle Paradise.
That's a whole nother thing too about the use of the tardigrade and how it was originally conceived of. I mean, I'm wondering, I guess it's an animated episode of short treks.
I don't know.
And they use the name Ephraim in it.
Oh,
Ephraim was the name of the tardigrade when he was a member. The way the tardigrade was written in Brian Fuller's original conception of the show is that he was a crew member on the Discovery. He was in engineering, and Stamets and him had a Han and Chewie-like relationship. And that's where the idea of the tardigrade had come from. And what it was morphed into, because they cherry-picked all those 13 original treatments, what it was morphed into was a lot like his video game. I mean, and I'm sure when they're like, ooh, how can I use a tardigrade? You do a quick search on the internet, you punch in tardigrades, and what pops up? His game.
Yep.
So, and it's like, oh, throw a little bit of Dune in there. It's just strange because the original conception of the tardigrade as written in Fuller's outline had really nothing to do with his video game. But when they took what was there and they started, just like there was no spore drive in the original conception of the show, the mushrooms, the whole mycellular network was used for terraforming in Brian Fuller's incarnation of the show. And what they did was they took everything there, but they had to make it enough their own. So they flipped everything. They took all these details and they're like, oh, what if I saw Dune? What if we go in and, because that's all of the folding space and going anywhere in the universe, all with a tardigrade and all of that is right out of Dune. And it's right out of Dune, the movie, not reading the books. And I'm like, clearly, when you can actually pinpoint the references that people went to and said, oh, I see what they're doing. The tardigrade stuff was already in the original, but they can't use it that way because Ephraim, can you imagine, unless they're going to finally name the tardigrade now. It's not just his video game it was all of what Brian Fuller had done for the show. They just mined it all and put their own names on it. I mean, Alex Kurtzman was not a co-creator of Discovery at the time. It was Brian Fuller's show. And
see, that matches everything else that I've been hearing and that I can kind of confirm where, yeah, this is just copy and paste work. And they learned it from JJ, that a lot of these people came out of JJ's little bad robot club of, well, here's how to make a lot of money in Hollywood without really trying. You just come in and you copy and paste something else and you pass it off as your own. And that's how a lot of people get by in college and high school, is they just copy and paste something off the internet. I think it's a generational thing because we didn't have that when I was a kid so much. You had to go to the library and find an encyclopedia and handwrite it. And then, you're not going to handwrite something in somebody else's words because, then the teacher would see it because it's one little encyclopedia. But with something like the internet, I mean, who's going to check up on all these things? And seriously, what can they do? I mean, they can hire all of these people to come out and attack YouTube channels. I've certainly dealt with a few of them that are, certifiable stalkers at this point. It's, death threats, all these people, the Axa Monitor people who, the people who admit that, yes, I'm a CBS paid troll. Yeah, of course you are. I know you are. And they can spend way less money just to hire a few trolls to shut down a couple of YouTubers than they would, and it doesn't really hurt anybody except for the people that they stole it from, but they don't care. So
it's cheaper now just to try to squash the dissent. Yeah,
in my opinion, anyway.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No. I'm clarifying for the legal reasons. In my opinion.
Well, yeah, I have to say that the Axa Monitor people, I started out hating their guts, but there are a lot of them that I've come to, especially like Carlos Pedraza. I appreciate his journalistic integrity in trying to at least through what I was put through by Alec Peters, who cost me a lot of money this year, suing me and lying about me and saying things that simply aren't true. And by the way, he asked me last week if I would come back to go work on Axanar again.
Are you kidding? Holy cow!
I am not kidding. He sent me a message and asked me. He said we did a lot of great work together, and would I come back and work on what he did or what they're doing now? I kid you not. And I'm thinking to myself, I had to have two legal. I mean, I had to hire lawyers in Georgia and spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to beat his case, his ridiculous case, a frivolous lawsuit he filed against me in Georgia just to fuck with me. And he's gone on and lied about me and all this stuff. And I had to fight it. I won, but it still cost me a lot of money. And he comes back and he forgets. It's like, you've repeatedly called me, the guy who did all of this work for you for 3 years, a liar. And it's amazing. And now you're asking me to come back to work for you. There's such a thing as water under the bridge, and then you can do the bridge over the River Kwai thing and blow the bridge up. In his case, he nuked it. There's no bridge to be built. I never will ever work with him again. And it's very interesting. And I have to say that AXA Monitor's efforts on behalf of finding out what was real was helpful in my legal defense. So, but there's a lot of people that are also very supportive of CBS in general, which is different than covering what Carlos was doing with AXA Monitor.
Yeah, see, my issue with the Axe Monitor people is that they want to come after somebody like me who has no love for Alec Peters. I had maybe one interaction with him as...
Oh, I know.
Well, it's been documented all over the place, but if anybody isn't aware...
An olive branch to me, and they just bad out.
Yeah, and it's like, if they were actually... I mean, and this is the thing. I mean, they could come to me and apologize and say, hey, we're sorry. We didn't realize that, you're actually not a bad guy in this.
So I can't comment or defend myself, but people can tag me endlessly.
Mm-hmm.
And I've complained about it, and they just laugh about it, basically.
Exactly. It's like they're just out there just for what? To defend $1 million company to take down somebody who wouldn't even be able to pay a fine on YouTube, right? It's like, is that really? Are you really the good guys in this, or are you a bunch of bullies? Because they kind of seem like a bunch of bullies, in my opinion. But Alec Peters might deserve it. I certainly don't, because CBS is doing a whole bunch of crap to Star Trek, and I'm defending, my passion. I'm defending something that I've had since I was in grade school, and I'm 40 years old now, and I've grown up with this franchise. I feel a little more entitled to it than these 20-something-year-old millennial gay club kids who are like, oh, you're not gay enough to be in our club, therefore you're a straight white, blah 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 blah, and you're an istanophobe and a blah 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 blah. Okay, you're a crazy person. I'm gonna go over here. And I don't want to be a part of your little club. And you know what? Maybe stop calling me all these names on Twitter, and stop flagging my videos, and stop attacking me. I'm not an istanophobe because Michael Burnham sucks. I'm sorry. It has nothing to do with the color of the woman's skin who plays her. I don't care. She's a freaking Vulcan. Not even that. She's a wannabe Vulcan, but she might as well be. This is Star Trek. These are aliens, as far as I'm concerned. We're beyond the color of somebody's skin in this day and age. We're beyond all of that crap. And it is insulting and disgusting to see what Star Trek has devolved into, and just the sheer amount of hate that I get because of it is disgusting, in my opinion. But
yeah,
but I'm brutal too. I am brutal, and I'll come out and say, oh yeah, this C word has no business being in this captain's photo, and blah blah blah, because she's not a captain, and it's the character, and the character is a C word. I'm sorry, the character's a bit of a C word to her fellow officers in the first episode, especially. Sorry, not going to apologize for that one.
Well, no, I mean, what's really interesting is I think online fandom, it's like being back in high school or junior high. And now all of the fan community, whether it's on YouTube or Twitter, but the fan communities, we've got the whole world now. We're all connected. So we don't have to be in one high school. The planet is our high school. Earth is our high school. And it doesn't matter if I'm middle-aged like I am and have one foot in the grave, I'm back in high school. And when I wade into this pool, it's almost like you said, the club kids. It's like, I never liked the guys in the drama club at my high school. They took it too seriously. They were very pretentious. I mean, and I feel like I'm back there. I feel like we've all of YouTube fandom and all of these fan sites, we're all back in high school. When really what's so funny is we're unified by our love of all this. We all love Star Trek. We all love Star Wars. I love comic books. I love video games. I love model kits. We all love this stuff. And that is our baseline. And yet we always forget that we all come at this from the same place. We all love this material so much. And we're snarky and mean to each other. And I don't like it.
Yeah. I got accused yesterday of hating Lashana Lynch because she's going to be in the new Bond movie. I said, where did I say I hate Lashana Lynch? I said, I think this is a dumb idea. That's a lot different than hating Lashana Lynch, who I've never met, who I'm sure is a lovely person. If I ever did meet her, I mean, I can dislike the movie she's in, or I could think that the movie that the idea for a movie that she is going to be in is not very good, and still have nothing against her personally. I think that's it. I mean, there's no demarcation anymore between your dislike of something and a personal attack. And
no, you're right.
Yeah.
There's no nuance. There's no understanding of, look, I want, me, we've talked before, I love the James Bond franchise, and I want No Time to Die to be great. After Spectre, I'm dubious. I'm dubious as whether it's going to be good or not. I've only loved one of the Daniel Craig Bonds. And I think what they're doing, I'm going to wait and see how they are doing all of this. But I also think that, again, you putting your agenda before your characters and your story that's death. It's never going to be a good thing. You can't stories. If you want to tell a story about something, the ideas and themes and points you want to make have to inherently work within that story. If you're trying to beat people over the head, then you're making some didactic point about this agenda you have, and that's not good storytelling. Write a thesis paper if that's what you want to do. But I hope Die Another Day, or pardon me, I have No Time to Die, Live and Let Die, Tomorrow Never Dies, any dying. The next dying we see in a Bond movie, I just hope it's good. I really want it to be good.
Well, same here.
No, they've decided that I'm an ist over her too, because see, that's the new thing. That's the new trend I'm seeing, is that younger people or people who don't really pay attention think that if you are complaining about something that has some sort of diversity casting or diversity message or some sort of, I call it diversity shielding. They'll cast somebody and say, oh, you can't criticize this because it has a female black lead, and Lashana Lynch is British, right? Because I don't want to say African American if she's British. But people say, I complain that she's not hot enough to even be a Bond girl, let alone to be a Bond character, and I certainly don't think she deserves the title or the name or anything. And they're like, oh, you're just an ish. You're are you? No. And, they don't understand. I made the comment about, and I make this about a lot of actors in general. You have this sort of look. It's the modern, it's like a trend. It's the modern style, fashion, whatever. You have actors who get out there on the red carpet and they kind of pose with this 1,000-yard stare. They look stoned, bored, annoyed to be there. They don't look like they want to be there, right? They look like they're somebody you would see working the drive-through at McDonald's at 2 a.m. or something. Somebody who just is not all there. They look like they're only there because the guy on the grill sells them weed or something. And that is how they show up to red carpets. And this comes from a lot of these actors, and it's not a color exclusive thing. You got people from Brie Larson to, male actors. And because I made this comment about Lashana Lynch, everybody assumed that every person who worked food service was a specific skin shade, and I had to chime in. I'm like, yeah, I worked food service. I've worked at drive-thrus. I've done these jobs. How is this ish when, that's on you? You're the one who thinks all people of this certain specific shade work this specific job. I'm just talking about how all these actors show up to their jobs and don't look like they want to be there. You're being paid millions of dollars. Freaking smile. Look like you want to be there. Look like Scarlett Johansson, who's like, hey, I'm Black Widow. Look how awesome I am. I'm having the time of my life. I'm getting paid millions of dollars and I don't have to do jack shit. And I get a personal trainer and I got private chefs and jets and planes and I get flown everywhere and free shit. I would be excited if I were getting that sort of treatment. I'm not going to show up and be like, can we get this over with?
Rob, did you hear that actually Daniel Craig said recently he's tired of saying the name's Bond, James Bond. And Jeremy Clarkson had said to him, listen, if you've been working on the railways for 40 years, you could say you're looking forward to retirement. Okay, but you've said it 4 times. You can't be tired of it.
I'm like, places. I'll be the female Bond then. I'll you know what? I'll say it. I'll say it all day. I'll say it all day. You want a female Bond? You cast me. I'll say it all day. I'll be there with a smile on my face. I'll take pictures. I'll do whatever you guys want.
And I just read that and thinking like, yeah, you tell him, Jezza. I'm like, that's one guy that will always tell you what he thinks is Jeremy Clarkson, and he just doesn't care. Yeah, it's like, yeah.
How do you feel about that article I sent you the other day, Robert, about Craig saying you can just fuck off as far as?
Well, I mean, here's. You mean it was that the one where he's talking about
Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Yeah.
Here's what I think about that. I mean, have you seen Fleabag?
No, I have not.
It's awesome. I love Fleabag, and I love. Did you watch the first season of Killing Eve?
I watched some of Killing Eve. I fell out of it quickly, not because of anything, not because anything was story related. I just kind of forgot it was on. Like, oh, yeah.
Well, I really enjoyed the Fleabag is just hilarious, and the I like Killing Eve a great deal. And what I really respect from Daniel Craig is that, he liked her writing. He liked her writing, and of course, as a performer. And I think especially Killing Eve, there's a lot of really, like, I would love it if the character of Eve, or not Villanova, what's her name? Villanova, her character, that character is a Bond villain, and I understand that when Daniel Craig watched the first season of that show, and I know it's based on a series of novels about that same character, she's a Bond villain. She reminded me most of Xenia Onatopp from GoldenEye, and I was like, I totally understand now when Craig was watching that, and the show is very witty, but it's also, I mean, she's a psychopath. She relishes killing people, and she's really good at it, and she likes to do it. She likes to sleep with people and then murder them. I mean, she's a Bond villain, and I can imagine that. So Daniel Craig was watching the show, and he's like, we got to get some of this into James Bond. And knowing that Phoebe Waller-Bridge wrote both Fleabag and wrote Killing Eve, I'm like, of course he said that, because that's exactly what the Bond franchise needs. Daniel Craig's Bond movies are so dour. No one's having any fun. Although he had fun in Casino Royale, but the other movies are so dour, and what he wanted, especially the villain. I mean, Silva was kind of having fun, but I'm sure Daniel Craig was thinking, why can't we make the Kiev the Villeneuve, what's her name? God, whatever her name is. Why can't we have her be a Bond villain so I can have this much fun with my adversary? And it makes a lot of sense to me. Like when he wanted her hired, it wasn't about diversity and it wasn't about women's voices necessarily. It was about the fact that he saw that Phoebe Waller-Bridge wrote these 2 shows that he really liked the writing in, and he wanted to get some of that in the Bond franchise. And he's right. I've met Neil Purvis and Robert Wade, who've been writing movies, the Bond film, since Tomorrow Never Dies. They've been co-writing. And everybody who's been writing the Bond films, they're stuck in this rut in terms of the formulaic aspects of them. And I think it needs, the one thing that Phoebe Waller-Bridge would bring to it is a dark, sardonic humor that I think the Bond franchise really needed. And it's interesting because I'm sure Craig is really annoyed. Like he thought to himself, man, I just want these scripts to be good. Spectre wasn't good. Quantum of Solace wasn't good. I'm going to make my last Bond movie. It's my 5th movie. I want this script to be great. I want to go out with a bang, and I need it to have witticism in it that the Bond franchise is missing. So I completely understand where he was coming from. And it's weird because then he gets caught up in this whole, and then the idea that, the female 007, because he's retired, there's all of these, there's a confluence of things that have happened that were already happening before all this information about No Time to Die comes out, that he gets caught up in. And he's sitting there to himself thinking, I just want to make a great Bond movie. And I need a great script to do that. And I want to make sure it's a great script. So I'm bringing on a writer who has written, in my mind, a secret agent assassin, a very dangerous Russian assassin who loves her job. She unrepentantly has sex with men and women. She kills people and loves it. She's like, I want the woman who wrote this character because that is the ultimate Bond villain. He's probably thinking to himself, I wish this was the Bond villain that I was in the next movie with. So that's where all of that came from, I think. And so I think Daniel Craig, who probably doesn't suffer fools gladly, was just annoyed. I mean, if you look at what he's been doing outside of the Bond franchise, like Soderbergh's movie, Logan Lucky, where he plays this Southern good old boy bomb maker, hilarious. Ryan Johnson's Knives Out, it looks like he's also having a romp. I suspect foul play. I mean, he's having a good time, and he wants this last Bond movie to be good too. So that's my take on the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure he was just pissed. I'm sure he wanted to just, I mean, it's already hard enough to make Bond movies, but I'm sure after all this was going down, all the crazy shit that was going on when they were making that movie, like peeping Toms in the bathroom of the studio they're shooting at, it's like, really? He just wanted, he was, I'm sure he'd had enough. And the idea that he wanted anything other than making this Bond movie great, the fact that he wanted to bring some agenda into it was, I'm sure he wasn't having that at all.
Well, the media has been really, really pushing for that, I think, because there's countless interviews of like Phoebe Waller-Bridge where she says kind of contradictory things. So I'm thinking that they like to say one thing to appease whoever's interviewing them versus the next. She's definitely been quoted on saying, well, I'll see what feminism I can sneak in. Yeah. So it's going to have some of that. But then you read another interview where she's like, no, the women are going to still be Bond chicks. They're going to be Bond women. So, it's like, okay, well, it just depends on who they're asking, but sadly we're kind of in this media spin where the trend is, we're gonna gender swap and we're gonna do all these things.
My biggest fear is I just do not want James Bond to be my biggest concern, rather. I just do not want James Bond to be a guest star in his own movie, and I know you share that same sentiment.
Oh my God. That would be the worst. I mean, it's so funny. I do this show. I do John Campia's show, and he taught me a term I didn't really know, which is the term jobber. That is a wrestling term, like in Worldwide Wrestling, the Wrestling Federation. And he uses it the way Superman has been portrayed on the Supergirl TV series on the CW, how Superman has become a jobber. And the job, I said, what does that mean? He said the jobber, the idea that is a jobber is there to facilitate another character coming out the hero.
Yeah.
So on the character, Superman has become a jobber to Supergirl because it's her show. Superman's never going to overshadow Supergirl. And I've been talking about that with John. I'm like, I don't want to see James Bond wind up in the in that position, in second position. I mean, look, what I would like to see is Lashana Lynch, we know that she's the new 00 because Bond is retired. But if I was making the movie, I would be like, when they first meet, I would have Lashana Lynch go, your legend is far and wide, and she's the one that unrepentantly just takes him to bed, and she wants to see. I wonder if he's as good as everyone says he is. And at the end, the next morning, she like has her mind blown by Bond. Like Bond just took her to paradise and back, and she's like, all right, I can now work with this guy, but it's her idea to do it. I would like to see if they have a characters and gender isn't necessarily a part of it. I mean, it would be because sex would be involved. But then you see these two people that can just go kick ass together, like Lethal Weapon, like Riggs and Murtaugh or something like that. I'd be totally down. Or like, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, the relationship where Bond is Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan is Lashana Lynch, but they're both kicking ass or something like that. And you make them equals, but they each have different skill sets. And you're not going to make Bond is like, well, I'm old and I've lost a step. No, he's just retired. And what would really be interesting is that to have Bond teach her a thing or two, like she's too nice at some point. She's like, no, you just got to be ruthless. You just got to kill these people. don't worry about what they think, and it would be interesting if they flipped this, if the story, like she had to deal with HR and she has to be very mindful of what words to use and who to talk to and how to talk to people. And Bond's like, don't worry about that. We're trying to save the world. It doesn't matter what people think, and you don't care about their feelings. You just need to get the job done, and you don't care whose feelings are hurt when you do it. She's like, oh, that's interesting. Maybe I should, what? You're right. Maybe I should be more like a sexist, misogynist dinosaur like you are.
Yep.
And they could really do some interesting stuff. And I think knowing Phoebe Waller-Bridge's writing, like Fleabag is unrepentantly sexual. And the fact that she wrote Killing Eve, I think we're going to see a pretty kick-ass Lashana Lynch character who is going to, if anything, be very edgy. And I think she's going to piss people off. And I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I hope you're right because I really want a good Bond movie. I mean, the last two were, I liked Skyfall when I was in the theater. Okay, I did like Skyfall when I was in the theater.
Yeah, me too.
Looking back on it, I'm like, okay, it does have shortcomings.
Many.
Yeah, Spectre, I did not like right away, and it was just like it was boring. It was trying too hard to be a Marvel movie. It just really rubbed me the wrong way. From the get-go, that first long one that they have, the tracking shot where he's gonna put a bullet in the guy,
right?
That I thought was cool, but after that, it was all downhill.
Yeah, I thought that opening though is awesome in the Day of the Dead, but yeah, then it just wasn't great.
Yeah, I want a great Bond movie, and we had this conversation before, but they are so afraid of a lot of the classic Bond tropes looking stupid, and that there's this constant need to reinvent the wheel. And yeah, I think you really embrace the classic Bond tropes because everything that all the classic Bondisms, nobody's doing anymore.
Right.
The sex, the violence, everything. What was that? The first line that was that line in even though it's not an official movie, never say never again. Good to have you back, 007. I hope it gets back to some gratuitous sex and violence. Yeah. I hope so too. Yeah. So
yeah. I mean, I loved all that. I mean, it was again, I think you and I have talked about this in the past. If you're a character that's trying to save the world,
yeah,
and your life is on the line every single day, every moment of every day, you're going to take your sensual pleasures, whether it's caviar or whether it's good alcohol or whether it's fine women or whatever it is you're into, you're going to take those unrepentantly whenever you can, because this might be the last moment of your life. So the idea that Bond sleeps with beautiful women, drinks great vodka martinis, and eats beluga caviar and champagne, the finest champagne chilled at the perfect temperature, that's part of his I mean, that's part of his character. That's it's funny, I once heard Dario Argento, the horror director, was once criticized for all of the violence in his movies, and I don't remember the exact quote, but somebody criticized him. He's like, you're always killing beautiful women in your films. And he made the crack. He said, well, wouldn't you rather watch beautiful women die than ugly women die? And it was the most politically incorrect thing you could possibly have said. But it's like he's making a movie. He's making a horror movie. It's not real. And if you're going to start analyzing the whole idea of horror in film, the whether you flip the script or not, I mean, damsels in distress is I'm sure, oh nope, we can't put damsels in distress anymore, not in the modern day. Well, okay, you can put guys in distress too, because a lot of men died in Dario Argento movies as well. But that's what a horror movie is. It's about people getting killed. And if you're going to suddenly start being politically correct about it, well, what's the fun of a horror film? You're ruining the whole idea of what it's supposed to be in the first place.
Well, that was their argument on it as well. They were upset that he killed a gay couple, but then not the children in the what was it, the sequel, it chapter 2 that came out. I'm like, well, okay, are you upset that he's killing gay people, or shouldn't you be happy that there's representation? I mean, he's a killer clown. He's gonna kill everybody.
No, we figured it out. Miss Sarcastic Nerd traced it back, and I'd forgotten all about it. It was back when they shipped the Babadook and Pennywise. So they felt betrayed that it killed the gay kid in the beginning of the movie.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and it was like, are you serious?
You know,
It's
that's
your fault. You're the guys who shipped him. He's a creature. He's not even a human being, for fuck's sake.
You know, that's the one thing, and we haven't actually touched on this. You said the whole, like I said, the sex and violence and everything. I mean, it's gotten so sanitized. Even the Bond movies don't treat, because the Bond movies were always overtly sexual.
Oh yeah,
and sex has gotten to be such a taboo subject again that you cannot even refer to it on film in many, or a lot of people are unwilling to, because it shows that, oh yeah, it's exploitative, you know.
Only can if it's female, like the 50 Shades of Grey type shit.
Yeah, it's it's quote unquote female empowerment stuff. Yeah. Well, and I think that goes back down to they don't want attractive people in the movies either. They want the self-insert sort of character.
I want to see someone who looks like me. Usually said
somebody like Scarlett Johansson. I can see my own fat ass in the mirror every day. You know, I want to see ScarJo. I want to see, you know, I want to see attractive people doing outrageous things that I can't do.
Yeah.
You know, if I see James Bond, I'm sorry, Daniel Craig isn't even an attractive Bond. I call him Ugly Bond. I've called him Ugly Bond since before I knew any of you guys.
But I mean, if this generation ever saw something like, let's just say, Emmanuel, their heads would explode.
Oh, by the way, those have been recently released on Blu-ray, and they look fantastic. Yeah, no, I mean, I wonder. I mean, does anybody under 30 still have sex?
No, that's on the decline too. That's another thing. I mean, we tell them
articles about the decline in the whole.
You've got Emma Watson saying she's self-partnered. I call this whole generation of
sex
pearl clutchers. You know, that's what they do. They don't want anything sexualized. They don't even want attractive people. They want kind of frumpy. You know, even if you have somebody attractive like Kelly Marie Tran, they put her in a potato sack and give her an ugly wig. You know, and they don't want pretty people on screen anymore.
Everything we do was originally designed to impress the opposite sex for procreation. The reason why men drive nice cars and play football and do anything or go to bars and wear suits is to attract the opposite sex. I mean, now we've made it dirty again, which is to me is like, what did I like? Am I in the bizarro world?
Man, you young people, I'm older than you, and I just don't understand what people have done. I mean, that was half of what my adolescence was fueled by. One of the lessons, you know, what did I learn from Captain Kirk? I learned a healthy love of very attractive but very learned women. I mean, that was half the appeal of Star Trek when I was 5. I knew that I wanted to meet every woman in every one of these episodes. I liked women that are curvy and busty and hippie, and because of Star Trek, because of those costumes, because it was delightful. And even as a 5-year-old, I'm like, part of the reason to be Captain Kirk is to meet all those women.
That's right.
I mean, that was it. And it was funny when Star Trek The Next Generation rolled around, it was so chaste. There was so little sexuality in Star Trek The Next Generation. And I always thought that was such a strange thing about the show. Like, and when you did touch on Star Trek, because I'll tell you something, I think that Star Trek The Next Generation, and I love everybody who worked on it, but the people who worked on it were a little bit more nerdy than the people that wrote the original series. The people that wrote the original series were veterans of World War II, and they were writers. They wrote novels and plays, and they lived a little bit more. And I think now, I mean, what happened to lust, man? And even 50 Shades of Grey is a sanitized version what a master and submissive relationship entails.
Not even that. I would say it's very off, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. I mean,
I've called the suburban housewife's fantasy of what a BDSM relationship is. I don't know. If
It was
you agree,
well,
but
it was
yeah.
originally written as Twilight fanfic, but I actually know a Dom, and she saw 50. Somebody asked her about 50 Shades of Grey. She's like, "Pfft, amateurs." I'm like, that's where that comes from. Jeez. But it's
I think anybody with a computer who's stumbled upon Pornhub or something in the middle of the night knows that that's not how actual BDSM is. It's very much kind of, it's the sanitized. It's like a Disney version of it. I hate to say, it's a Disney version. And not only that, that little girl in that movie doesn't look like she's old enough to be doing any of the stuff she's doing. It's like, this is your first relationship. This is your first love. What are you going to do in 10 years when things get old? Missionary position. What is the appeal of jumping right to this? This is like jumping right into the end boss of a video game.
What was that line in the Matrix? You would deny that which would make us human. I mean, that's what it seems like we're going through. There's a lot of people out there. And again, we talk
same thing with laughter. You can't have laughter anymore.
Yeah.
You can't have jokes anymore. That's offensive to somebody.
And Tom and I were just throwing out ideas. We actually inadvertently wrote an Austin Powers movie where Dr. Evil puts all these programs into your cell phone to control people's minds. It gets us politically correct. At the end, Austin's just like, no, man, when we were making fun of each other, we weren't demeaning people. We weren't putting people down. We were celebrating our differences, baby, because that's how it is. It takes all kinds to make the world go round, man. And that was the whole.
Yeah, basically, Dr. Evil was pushing SJW culture because it's everything to make it everything against everything Austin Powers stood for. But yeah,
right, yeah. I mean, it's so annoying. It's just
I could tell you like that idea. I have a new currency. It's called
a dinosaur. Okay, boomer. He'd be called that by people, and yeah.
I have a new currency. It's called woke points. Woke points, Dr. Evil. Yes, woke points.
Started in Bitcoins, and now it's called woke points.
Yeah, it's
and that's actually what they're experimenting now in China. It's a social credit system, like on the Orville. Remember?
We started in China.
They're doing it. It's
we're
crazy.
Rolling it out in China first. We will take the world, then Europe, and we'll take the world by storm. So, oh boy!
I thought you and Austin were friends. You're brothers. Yeah, well, he stole my popsicles, so I hate him again, or something. You just come up with something stupid. I don't know. That wasn't very funny. But we do have a question from Matt G. How do you feel about the Avengers quadrilogy? Whatever you call it.
Quadlogy.
Compares to the OT Star Wars, the Avengers definitely beats the prequels and sequel trilogies. Here's the thing with the Avengers movies, they don't work without the other movies to support them. I mean, what I mean is I walked in one day, my mom was watching Iron Man 3, and I'm like, have you even seen the Avengers? And she's like, no, what's that? That's where they all get together, Iron Man and, Hulk and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, no. I'm like, well, and how do you know what's going on here? I'm like, he's having anxiety attacks because of what happened in Avengers. How do you know? She's like, I don't know. I just kind of following along with it, whatever. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, Mom, there's this whole other thing, So yeah, to me, to say that that's the problem is the Avenger movies. You need the other movies for those to work, and it's vice versa.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I like them in the sense that they're look, I grew up reading comic books, and to see the especially when I got to Infinity War and Endgame, that was sort of the purest form of these giant crossover comics I never thought I would ever see on this big screen. But a lot of those comics, I mean, a lot of the MCU does sort of rely on while I really like them and they're earned. Look, I even think Avengers Age of Ultron is a movie that gets better over time. I really like Age of Ultron, and I like how it sets up the Civil War, and then which later leads into Endgame. But I don't think they're ever going to. They're not. Those movies are not as mythic as, say, Star Wars is. You know, there, and maybe it's because I was so steeped in comics growing up, where Star Wars was new. Star Wars was unique to film. Whereas, as much as I like the MCU, we've seen them in different mediums, whether it's comics or whether it's animation, whether it's video games. I mean, the MCU was different, and Star Wars really did capture the imagination of the world. Not that the Avengers didn't, but Star Wars was new. It was something nobody had ever seen before. And I think that there was something to be said for that, especially the time it came out in the late 70s, 77 and 80. And then 83, it was the end of the Watergate era, and it was the sort of the beginning of the 80s, and there was a lot of cultural change happening, and it was sort of pre-AIDS epidemic, and there was something going on in America. One thing was ending and something else was beginning, and I think Star Wars really took hold of our consciousness. I mean, my parents weren't necessarily into it, but they certainly knew all about it because we went and saw the movies, and they bought the toys, and it was a thing. Like, Star Wars was really a thing, especially if you were around when it first came out. It was really important. And Star Wars, political cartoons, everybody was talking about Star Wars. It was everywhere because nobody had seen anything remotely like it before. So it really did grab hold of, it didn't matter whether you were a housewife in Hackensack, New Jersey, or, you were an Eskimo up in Alaska, or whether you were, I don't know, in the forests of the Amazon rainforest. Everybody knew about Star Wars. I mean, it was crazy. So it's a different thing. So I don't know if comparing them is fair, because they work, I think, on different levels.
Yeah, Star Wars changed the industry in a lot of ways, as did the Marvel universe. I mean, both of them have their own, nobody's ever done what Kevin Feige and the Marvel universe have accomplished to this point, even if it were to end at Endgame. There's nothing in the history of film that's really been pulled off like that before. And at the same time, I got to agree with Robert to where, especially even if you just have the first original Star Wars alone.
Oh,
just
yeah.
The fact that had, you wouldn't have Avengers if it wasn't for Star Wars. Star Wars was a thing where it just didn't stop. It was a train that just didn't stop. Jaws was kind of like a precursor to it. But that couldn't even have, gotten anybody even close to ready for something like what Star Wars did. It played for over a year. In some places, they had to send back reels and get new reels because they had worn out the reels. They were showing it so much. They couldn't believe. It took them by surprise, and they couldn't believe it. It was just something that you'd never seen before. And then on top of just the technical aspect of it and what was achieved, and how they've treated movies ever since, and how the summer movies changed from then on out between Jaws and Star Wars. And that Jaws was the first film to have a wide opening in more than just a few theaters at a time, where they used to just roll them out in regions. That was the first time where they opened it wide everywhere. And Star Wars got that treatment, but it was a little later when they realized it was going to be a big hit, but it still eventually got that treatment. And ever since then, that's the way big movies have been handled, and a big part of it is they spend a buttload of money on not merchandising, but advertising. And then they make that money back in the first few weekends, instead of rolling it out in several regions where the advertising is much cheaper to do it regionally and make it back on a movie going from area to area, as opposed to opening nationwide, to where you got to do a national campaign where you're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, even then, it was a lot of money to do a big national campaign, because it was a lot. Like, they almost spent, I think, just about as much as what a movie would cost even then to do the campaign. So it's very comparable in a way, and it's just the way the business kind of changed. But that's where the big flops started coming in, I think, is where, because a movie would flop back in the day, but you generally didn't have a big stinker unless it was something like Ishtar, and stuff like that, where it was
right,
where it really lost its money in the theaters.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gents, I have to take my leave of you.
Yeah, I think we should probably wrap up.
We've been going for a while.
I've been going for 3.5 hours now. So this has been enlightening and a great conversation with everybody involved who joined us throughout, especially Robert Meyer Burnett. We encourage you to check out the Burnett work. It's a great place to listen to Rob go on and on and on about everything you love. But it's great because he gets great letters and great participation with the crowd with listening, and I do recommend it highly. I try to catch it as much as I can, and of course, check out Mecca as always. And Rob, let's say goodbye to all the fine folks out there in the chat. Thank you for all the super chats and the questions. We appreciate it. That was your cue, Rob.
Waiting for me?
Yes.
Oh, jeez. Hey, thanks. We'd like to thank Robert Meyer Burnett. Thank Mick Rand. Thank Tom. Tom, you're always here. Why am I thanking you?
This was my show.
Like, subscribe, hit here. Yeah, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Like, subscribe, main channel, hit the bell icon over there. Subscribe to the network. Subscribe to Mecha Random's channel, Mecha Random 42. All our friends would like to thank everybody in the chat, and we will catch you next time.
You just literally
no music.
You just like you said. You know that, right? You're fired.
Yeah, I do. Thank you. Thank you.